Senator Ted Cruz on the Invest America initiative. That measure just taking a very big step to become reality. We're going to talk about it with both of these gentlemen when Squawk Box returns.
Welcome to Club Champion, and welcome to more gimmies, like gimme 20 more yards off the tee, and gimme more brands than any other fitter. Full bag fittings are just $100 with code PERFECTFIT at clubchampion.com.
You founded your kayak company because you love the ocean, not spreadsheets. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Does your wife know you spent over $600 on takeout?
We're busy. We don't have time to cook.
Okay, but do you know you're also paying for a meal kit on top of that?
Wait, really?
Look, just get Rocket Money. It shows you all your expenses in one place, and it even tracks your subscriptions. And any subscription you don't want, which for you, there's a lot you don't need, you can cancel right from the app.
So you mean I don't have to call customer service to cancel?
Nope, no hold times or anything. And they'll even try to get you a refund for the money you spent, which I'm sure your wife will be very grateful for.
I'm gonna download it right now.
Did you know that your life insurance policy is an asset that you can sell? Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. I'm the CEO of Abacus Life, and for almost 20 years, we've been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. In fact, you can use the free policy value calculator at abacuspays.com, and in just seconds, you can learn what your policy might be worth.
The premiums were getting unreasonable, so we sold ours.
And for more than we expected.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Selling your life insurance policy can be a safe, smart choice for many seniors. Don't sell or lapse your policy before going to abacuspays.com or calling 1-800-900-PAYS to learn what the fair market value of your policy might be. There are no fees and no obligations, just information. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
At this point in my life, I know I'm investing for the long haul. Being able to use public and have the features like recurring investments, it's steady, reliable, and easy to manage. It's like having my money just on autopilot.
Decking and railing that stands up to whatever you ask and bends to your every whim. Trex, performance engineered for your life outdoors.
Welcome back to Squawk. Our next two guests are spearheading an effort to establish a universal savings account for every American starting at birth. Joining us right now is Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. He's the chairman of the Commerce Committee. Also, Brad Gerstner, founder and CEO of Alternative Capital. Good morning to both of you gentlemen, but I want to start with the senator, if I could. We've talked about this with Brad, and I believe we actually talked about it with you as well, Senator. This is now past a new step. Where are we in this? How's it going to work? How much is it going to cost the American public? And how much are young kids, hopefully when they get old, going to get from it all?
Right. Well, this is a very exciting initiative that is moving forward because the House Ways and Means Committee just yesterday released the initial draft of their tax bill, and they included within it the idea, Invest America, that Brad has been working on for years, that Brad and I together have spent over a year working very hard to push it forward. The idea is simple, which is that we're going to create an investment account for every newborn child in America at birth. And that investment account, the federal government will seed with $1,000, but that account can receive every year up to $5,000 in contributions from friends and family members and from employers. And those contributions grow on a tax-deferred basis, and they can take it out after they turn 18. What it does is it takes every child in America and it gives them, number one, the miracle of compound growth, the ability to accumulate wealth, which is transformational. But number two, it makes them stakeholders. It gives them a stake in the American free enterprise system. And you asked how much they can save. If you have a baby that is born this year that starts with the initial $1,000 seed contribution over the next 18 years, if $5,000 a year is contributed at 7% growth, by the time they're 18, they have $170,000 in this account. By the time they're 35, they have $700,000 in the account. And so I believe this will be a transformational policy. It's something Brad has built a big community of leaders throughout the business community who are enthusiastically supporting it. I've been pitching it to my colleagues in the Senate, my colleagues in the House, to the President, and I think we're going to get it done, and yesterday's House bill was a big, big step forward.
Senator, before I get to Brad, do you think long-term this would change potentially even Social Security?
I don't know. It is obviously not aimed at the end of life. It's not aimed at retirees. It's aimed at babies. It's aimed at children. And the way you pitched it, Andrew, is the right way to think about it. It's a 401k for kids. And think about how 401ks have changed our society. One of the really powerful things is I think a lot of employers, when this is passed, will find it a very attractive benefit to give to their employees to say, hey, we're going to match your contributions to these investment accounts for your kids, or we're even going to seed them, just like they do with 401ks. And so I think the impact, look, by the time a newborn child is on Social Security, all of us likely will be dead. We'll let a Congress 70 years from now worry about that. What I'm interested in is giving these kids the ability to climb the economic ladder much, much faster, to accumulate wealth. And I think there's a real power to making them investors and stakeholders in the economy, so that a 10-year-old can pull out an app on his phone and say, hey, look, I own $50 worth of Apple. I own $75 worth of Boeing. I own $30 of McDonald's. I go into a McDonald's, I'm an owner of McDonald's. That changes, I think, a young person's attitude when they're a stakeholder in our free market system.
Hey, Brad, congratulations. I know this has been a long time coming. How much is it going to cost on an annual basis?
Well, it's great to be here today. I'm live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where I'm helping David Sachs and others evangelize about accelerating American AI in the region. And so it's great to be here with you. You know, when you think about this, the leadership that Ted's providing and the House Ways and Means team has provided in putting this in the legislation is absolutely critical. 3.7 million children are born in the U.S. every year. If you seed them all with $1,000 in the S&P 500, that's $3.7 billion a year, Andrew. That's less than the cost of a single weapon system that we have in our military. So it's a tiny amount of money to get every child in America in the game, to unlock the potential. You know, the president talks about his Main Street agenda. This is every town, every urban block in America, every child in America. And so we think this is a major step forward. You just heard from the senator. His leadership was absolutely critical to get this on the agenda. And so we're just absolutely thrilled to see it in the first draft from the House. Thanks goes out to the Speaker and to Jason Smith, the Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. But we got a long way to go. And, as he said, this is a private sector program, 3.7 million private accounts. And we have CEOs over here in Riyadh right now, Jensen Huang, Dara Khosrowshahi, who have all signed up. They will add to the accounts of the children of their employees when we get these accounts set up. So the government's doing what it does well. It's getting it catalyzed and then getting out of the way and letting the private sector, the upside of the American economy, really drive this program.
And in terms of just how it will work, let's say, obviously, the government puts in the first 1,000, employers and others can do things. You can put in more money yourself. What is the ability to take that money out? And is the goal, I imagine you want this to compound. That's why I mentioned Social Security. I'd love it if that almost, because people keep the money in, then they'll actually have an enormous amount of money when they retire. What's going to prevent people from taking it out, and at what point can you?
So
Senator, why don't you answer that one?
All right. It varies depending on the version. The version that I have filed allows someone, if they choose, to take it out at 18, that if you're an adult, you can make a decision about what to do with the capital and the capital you've saved. You're right, it's much more beneficial if they keep it and save it. The House took my language and they changed it a little bit. They modified it. So they allowed someone at 18 to take out up to half of the amount in the account to use for what they called a qualified expense. And a qualified expense was education or buying a home or starting a business. And then the remainder they could take out at 25 or 30. I'm not sure the precise lines that will be reached because there will be back and forth between the House and the Senate, but I think you will end up seeing either way an investment vehicle that really enables every child to get the benefits, to appreciate the benefits of compound growth. And everyone on this show understands the benefits of being a long-term investor and letting your earnings join your principal and grow the corpus that is growing. And my hope is that this will be a reality for every kid in the country.
Does this replace the 529B, or would that exist separately? Because I've used 529B to teach the same lessons to my kids.
Becky, it wouldn't, and that's the 529 plan is one that was actually my single biggest legislative achievement to date in 13 years in the Senate. Back in 2017, when we were passing the last tax cut, I introduced the legislation that expanded the College 529 savings plan so that it includes K through 12 education. And it ended up, that bill passed on the floor of the Senate. The vote was 50-50. It was 1 in the morning. The vice president came down to the Senate and broke the tie. And that is still to date the most far-reaching federal school choice plan ever adopted. And it lets parents and grandparents save and spend up to $10,000 per year in a tax-advantaged account for education expenses. I'm a big believer in savings, in vehicles, and I think 529s like 401ks and like these Invest America accounts are going to be powerful avenues to help people save and accumulate capital and really have a stake in our system. You know, one of the arguments Brad made to me when he pitched this to me, we started talking last April, is he said, look at the polling of young people and what a high percentage of young people say they're socialist and not capitalist. And one of the things I'm excited about this, it's one thing to say it when you feel you don't have a stake in what's going on. It's another thing when you have ownership, you have involvement. And so I think this is really powerful to raise up a generation of capitalists who see the power of, wait, if I can own a little bit of McDonald's, maybe I can go and start a McDonald's. Maybe I can work and build a business. And that's really the American dream. That's what I think is really powerful about this idea.
Hey, Brad, while we got you in the Middle East with the president, I'm just curious what the reaction is there to what's happened in the last 48 hours, 72 hours over the weekend in Geneva as it relates to these tariffs, and what, more importantly, your expectation is going forward, meaning do you believe that this is now a floor and a ceiling on what those tariffs ultimately look like? I know you've been a backer of tariffing China. Some people look at this tariff number as that may not have enough teeth actually to get some of the other things that I think you've asked for, but I don't know. What's your thought?
Well, first thing I would say is Scott Bessent kicked off, the program this morning, and congratulations to him on, on securing what I think it will be a historic deal in Geneva this weekend. Remember, I came on Squawk about a month ago, and I said there's a real decision. There's a debate within the White House. There's a Navarro camp that thinks we should have $2 trillion worth of tariffs, that we can replace the internal revenue system with tariffs. And then there's the Bessent camp that just wants fair trade around the world. And so it appears to me, and I think the delegates here, that Scott Bessent is leading the way, that the president is achieving the goal of re-onshoring strategic industries without decoupling from the rest of the world. It's really important that we accelerate American technology around the world. That's what we're doing in the Gulf countries on this trip. And so I would say that there's incredible enthusiasm among the venture capitalists, the investors, the founders, the CEOs who are here. You have every major CEO in America who are here announcing big deals, whether it's NVIDIA or Uber or AMD, et cetera. And so I think it's a major step forward. I think we now have an answer to the question, Andrew, that we posed on your program about a month ago. I think when the stock market was down 15% from where we are today, which is, are we going to move in the direction of what I call the nuclear-style Navarro tariffs, or are we going to move in the direction of the Bessent-style fair trade tariffs? And I think that is now clear. We're going in the direction of fair trade. That's good for America. That's good for the global economy. That's why you see the stock market bounce back so aggressively here. And so, we've also seen all this incredible progress on the reconciliation bill. And let's remember, Invest America is an incredible part of the reconciliation bill. But the key here is extending and passing further reductions in taxes in the U.S. And so there's an opportunity here. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. but we're encouraged by the progress that we've seen.
Hey, Senator, also wanted to get your thoughts. You've been somewhat critical. I think we've had a couple of discussions about Qatar, the Qataris, over the years. They now plan to provide a plane to the president.
Order filled.
There's some questions about the emoluments clause and whether it's going to go to his library, whether he's going to get to fly on it afterwards. What are your thoughts about all this?
Well, listen, I'm not a fan of Qatar. I think they have a really disturbing pattern of funding theocratic lunatics who want to murder us, funding Hamas and Hezbollah, and that's a real problem. I also think that the plane poses significant espionage and surveillance problems. So we'll see how this issue plays out. But I certainly have concerns. I will say what Brad said a minute ago about the announcement, Secretary Bessett's announcement, I emphatically agree with. And in fact, the way he broke it down of two paths, one path using the leverage of tariffs to get lower tariffs, that's a fantastic path. That's, I think, what the president is doing, which is why the market is reacting positively. There is another camp within his administration that doesn't want lower tariffs, wants to see high tariffs in perpetuity. And I think right now the president has made the right decision to go down path number one. I think that's exactly the right path to go down.
Senator, Brad mentioned the reconciliation bill, the higher higher tax rates off the table, apparently. We talked about that just last week, I think, when you were on. But, you know, the Medicaid stuff, Republicans wimping out, they're still going to get hammered by Democrats, even with the really anemic reforms that are in there about Medicaid. And now you got, theoretically, the importation, it wasn't as bad as people thought, but the importation of price controls on pharmaceuticals. Do you have any comments on either one of those recent things since it happened since you were on?
Sure. So let me say several things. Number one, I'm glad the House has put out its tax bill that is cutting taxes, that is maintaining things like, for example, the House incorporated my legislation, no taxes on tips. I think that's going to be really important for working class voters across the country. I'm really grateful to see that. I think extending the tax cuts is incredibly important for our economy. In terms of Medicaid, I think the House made some important steps forward. I'm hopeful. I think there's a real possibility you'll see the Senate stand up and be even bolder, and be bolder, number one, in terms of strengthening work requirements, but number two, in terms of going after waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a considerable abuse in the Medicaid system, particularly in big blue states where you have politicians that have taken advantage of the federal taxpayers. So I'm hopeful that this will be a back and forth. In 2017, the House passed a really good bill. It went to the Senate made it stronger. And then we went to conference committee and it made it even stronger. I'm hopeful we'll see that same iteration. You know, I will say, Joe, in addition to no taxes on tips and Invest America accounts, there were two other big victories of legislation I was fighting for that are in the House bill. They created a pipeline to auction spectrum, 600 megahertz of spectrum, to make it available to the private sector. That is hugely important and will unleash billions in new investment. And they also included a version of my legislation to create federal tax credits for contributions to scholarship granting organizations in the states. If enacted, that will be the most far-reaching federal school choice legislation ever enacted. And I actually think that legislation and Invest America are likely to be the two biggest legacy items of this legislation. They're both in the House bill, and so the credit goes to Jason Smith and to the Speaker, who've really shown tremendous leadership on the House.
Senator, we're out of time, but I'm getting a text from someone who's watching us. Just to put a fine point on the airplane, because I think people wanted to understand, if you're worried about the national security issues about that, would you be telling the president explicitly, do not accept that plane? And if you were to accept it, is that something where you think the Senate might try to take action in terms of investigating things related to it?
Look, I think there will be serious conversations, especially on the security side. We've seen in the past, for example, issues with embassies in foreign countries. When we've let foreign countries build an American embassy, the walls are literally filled with bugs and listening devices. You look at the technology now, you think of the conversations that occur on Air Force One. Any nation, but especially a nation like Qatar that funds Hamas, would love to know every conversation that happens on Air Force One. So I think the security challenges there would be massive. This issue will continue to play out. I'm confident we have not reached the final resolution of it.
What's your thought on the emoluments clause piece of it about being able to take the plane and keep the plane afterwards?
I think that's a question that will be litigated. It is uncharted territory, so I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure it will be litigated.
Okay. Senator, want to thank you. Brad, want to thank you from the Middle East. Congratulations to both of you. We look forward to talking to both of you soon again.
Thank you.
Great. When we return, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is going to join us with the administration's response to the air traffic control mess at Newark Airport. Also improvements that he's looking to make. I thought Newark couldn't get any worse. Unbelievable.
We're wrong.
We were wrong. And at 8:30 this morning, today's key data point, April CPI. So coming up here, numbers are going to be released. The numbers in the market reaction are coming up. Squawk Boss will be right back.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, you can simply arrive or make an entrance. Stick to the agenda or experience something unexpected. With IHG's 19 hotel brands, you can guest how you guest.
I need these items printed by Friday.
Certainly.
Are you for imprint certain?
We are for imprint.
Certainty matters when you need promo gear for gifting clients, customers, and your team. 4imprint.com has items certain to wow.
4imprint for certain.
Franklin Templeton ETFs. With over 70 ETFs, we have solutions for every market, helping advisors build the portfolios of the future today. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
It is amazing to have a collagen. I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum. And if you don't know what colostrum is, it is amazing. It is a bioactive whole food. It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance, your hair, like immune system. It strengthens, supports all of that. The first thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout. If you want to try it, try armor.com.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
We believe in homework.
Jim Cramer instills you should do your homework and you should be armed with knowledge. By educating myself, I know that I'm have a great financial future.
Get invested. Join the club today. Go to CNBC.com/join-Jim.
Welcome to the show, the one with unimaginable power and endless entertainment.
You can't help but be awed by it all.
Sunday Night Baseball. Every Sunday, all season on ESPN.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. The Trump administration launching a Newark Airport emergency task force made up of experts from Verizon, L3, Harris, and the FAA. This is in response to the fallout of several air traffic control screens that now blacked out at Newark Airport. And joining us right now is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. He joins us this morning. Thank you for joining us. Let's just go through the basics at this point, which is how safe is it genuinely to be in the air, to be landing or taking off at Newark Airport?
Good question. It's safe, and that's because we have numerous redundancies in place at the FAA. So when you have issues with your telecom, we slow down traffic, which is exactly what we've done at Newark. And then even if you lose telecom, like you saw twice in the last 2 weeks, there's procedures in place with the air traffic controllers and for pilots. And so it's safe. But again, we have a problem on our hands in that we have an aging telecommunication system using copper wires, not fiber, and we have a shortage of air traffic controllers. This has been a problem that's been burning for a number of years. There were watchdog groups in government that gave warnings to the last administration that this was a problem. Nothing was done. And so now we have solutions and fixes to the problems, but none of these you can snap your fingers and fix. They all take time, and we're going to ask the Congress for the money, the resources to make those fixes. Right. But again, it's going to be 2, 3, 4 years before we see more air traffic controllers and we get an infrastructure that's worthy of America, into our airspace.
United has already obviously, shifted its schedule and sort of retreated in terms of how many flights it has out of Newark. That's ultimately going to impact LaGuardia and JFK, and these, of course, are international hubs. It's also probably going to put pressure on pricing, meaning that customers are going to be paying more for flights out of these airports. What is your expectation over the next couple of weeks or months for those folks who have actually booked out of Newark, whether those flights are going to ultimately get removed and pushed to other places, just in terms of, for those, and this is a news you can use question, for those who are trying to schedule things, what would you be doing? What would you be doing yourself with your own family?
So I have the power to convene the airlines with the FAA to talk about, the capacity at airports. It hasn't been used in 20 years. I've exercised that authority. That meeting is going to happen this Wednesday. All the airlines are going to come together and see if they can get to an agreement on how they reduce their capacity at Newark. Because again, Andrew, what you want is you want people to book their flights and be able to fly on those flights without being delayed for 4 or 5 hours and then have their flights canceled. So again, I think as we get through this week, we're going to have a pretty good idea of what the capacity is. And again, if we get the agreement from the airlines, we're going to be in a place where if you book, you're going to fly.
Secretary, the FAA told the New York Times that as few as 3 air traffic controllers were scheduled to work last night directing planes in and out of Newark, and at some points there was just 1 fully certified controller on duty. There were delays of up to 7 hours yesterday. How is that possible? Is that true?
Yeah, listen, we're 3,000 air traffic controllers short. And it's going to take time to train up those controllers. Let me just explain, one quick thing. If you have a controller who, say, works in the D.C. airspace, they've been in the job for 20 years, they're experienced. If you move them up to Newark, it takes them almost a year to get trained up on that specific airspace. So I just can't move controllers around the country and fill the gaps in Newark. It's a specifically trained controller that can work that airspace. And so when we had, air traffic controllers after the system went down a couple weeks ago that took leave because they were stressed out, that puts more pressure on the system. We had a few additional situations last night. And again, what we do is we will slow down traffic. You'll see delays, but safety is the top priority. And so if you don't have the controllers to navigate the airspace, you slow the airspace down. Or if it's not safe, you shut the airspace down. That's what we do. And so you might complain about delays, which I agree, traveling with a family in this environment is challenging. But in the end, I want to make sure you get to the place that you're going and you get there safely.
I mean, traveling for business is almost impossible at this point. If you're talking about delays on those levels, you can't schedule business. It's going to cut into efficiency in this area. How did we wind up 3,000 air traffic controllers short? And is there anything that could be done to bring back people that may have left or retired, or are there mandatory retirement ages? And there's nothing we can do about that.
No, that's a great question. So, we've had this problem for 10 years, but the school that trains our air traffic controllers in Oklahoma City shut down and didn't ramp up fast enough during the COVID years. And so it's exacerbated the problem. And so what I've done now is, again, the mandatory age of retirement for a controller is 56. Most of them retire at 51, 52, 53 because they can retire after 25 years of service. What I've done is I've offered them a 20% bonus to stay on. Don't leave. They're the most experienced controllers that we have. A lot of them, I think, just patriotic controllers are going to stay on and continue to serve the country. And then there's a lot of problems of getting young people into the academy and through the academy in Oklahoma City. We've worked through the kinks in the academy, and we're going to expand the capacity at the academy, so we're going to get more controllers into the airspace. But again, it takes 1 year to 3 years to train up a new controller to work in airspace. So this is going to be a longer-term problem. Someone should have seen this coming in the last administration and try to do this supercharge but we're left with, again, 3,000 short, and we're going to fix the problem as well as trying to fix the infrastructure. I don't know if you saw our press conference last week. We're using, 1980s-esque equipment. We have radar that date back to the 70s. The systems are really old. They should have been updated a long time ago. And so now we need new telecom, and we need all new equipment in the centers and towers and TRACONs throughout the country that keep our airplanes away from each other and keep passengers safe.
On a very technical level, I know you plan to replace the copper connections between Newark and Philadelphia with fiber. How is that going to change things immediately? Meaning once that is done, what does that do?
So one, it's going to solidify the communication lines, right? So we have air traffic controllers that can talk to airplanes, and we can get the radar feed on the controller's scope so they can see where airplanes are. We already laid fiber at Newark. It's being tested right now. Hopefully, the tests are going to be done next week. We're working on new lines that are going to connect Newark to the TRACON that controls that airspace down in Philly. Hopefully, that's going to be done, in the next month. But again, laying fiber and doing these connections don't happen overnight, right? It takes time to do it and then to test it, and we're in the process of doing that right now. But again, we're working at lightning speed. Verizon has been a great partner of ours. They put us to the top of their list of the work they're going to do to make sure that Newark is taken care of, and we have solid, strong lines coming in. Just one quick note, fiber's great, right? It's reliable. It's the gold standard in communication. The problem we have is it's really fast. And so as fiber comes into the tower or the TRACON or the center, we actually have to slow it down because it's so fast. Our systems need a speed of copper. So again, it becomes technical and challenging because the speeds don't match. But again, it's going to be reliable. We have the technology to slow that speed down so it can work with our old equipment. Again, we have industry working with us at the FAA. And again, I can't snap my fingers and fix it, but I think we're going to be on a good path here this week and in the coming couple of weeks, getting that fiber laid and connected between the airport and the TRACON.
Secretary Duffy, first of all, thank you for taking this seriously and working quickly. Obviously, this is something that's built up over years and even decades when it comes to the equipment that we're dealing with. If Newark is the worst place in the country right now, where's the second worst? And should we expect to see this happen in other cities across the nation over the coming months?
No, listen, so we're starting to see cracks in the system, right? It's safe, but we should heed the warnings that we see with the equipment that we use, and we should fix it. A lot of Americans fly. And so to make sure that we have great infrastructure, that we lead the world on this infrastructure, I think is incredibly important. Newark is interesting because last summer, that airspace at Newark was controlled by the New York TRACON, which had LaGuardia and JFK. Last summer, they moved Newark down to the Philly TRACON. And that created a number of problems when they moved it. Again, they didn't harden the connections that were necessary, and they didn't move one of the systems that are necessary down to Philly. They're pulling that information out of the Newark TRACON. This gets really complicated really quick, so I'm sorry about talking about those things, but because of the setup when that airspace was moved from N90 in New York down to Philly, it created problems that we're now dealing with today. Had the work been done last summer up front to make sure that the lines were hardened and all the systems were in Philly, I don't think we'd be dealing with this situation.
Why did that happen last summer?
We fix it.
Yeah. What happened last summer? Who decided to not push that through? They didn't have money from Congress. What happened?
There was
Good morning, guys. Y'all ready? 4 minutes.
Staffing options in Philly. It was a process that was going on for a couple of years. The move happened last summer. Pete Buttigieg and the FAA, certified that the move should take place. The problem with it didn't do the precursor work necessary to make sure that we wouldn't have the problems that we're seeing today. But to your broader question, we're seeing problems throughout the system.
Where's the next worst place in Newark?
I don't know. We see blips in our communication. 100 plus times a week, right? The systems don't go down, but we're seeing infrastructure issues. And so, and again, that's why we have multiple redundancies in place to make sure flyers are safe. But my call, though, is Congress has to fund a massive around our airspace and our air traffic control. And it's going to take billions and billions of dollars. I think we can do this in 3 to 4 years. We have to clear the permitting regulation so we can do it fast.
What's up?
And if Congress does that for us,
Morning. Let's go. Y'all ready?
I can't do it by myself. I need the Congress to partner. By the way, this is my
So you have 3 minutes.
we have to find a vehicle on which they can put the money in.
I hope it does drop.
So we can start the work. But top level.
I have 10. I'm gonna go, YOLO, and then I have a couple. Yeah, and then I have a couple I'm already short on FE tournament.
Who's going to ultimately bear it? There's an argument that taxpayers should ultimately, because it actually benefits the entire economy, and all Americans benefit just from the movement that airlines create. There's also an argument to be made that the airlines should be paying for it because they're profiting off of customers who are getting on those planes.
It's gonna go down. Everything's like way overbought now. I hope it goes down so we can long.
As a result
There's no way CPI is good.
Which is so necessary.
So we have general aviation that uses the airspace. We have airlines that use it. We have cargo shippers that use the airspace. And so, again, I think that the Congress is going to pay for it. There's a debate that happened, 5 years ago. Should air traffic control be privatized? What that's going to do is it's going to divide people. It's going to divide the industry. It's going to divide the Congress. We don't have time for a divisive fight. Let's fix the system. Do I think it's going to make your tickets go up? No. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a more resilient system that is going to allow us to be more.
Shit, you got 1 minute. I gotta get ready.
Drones and eVTOLs, these Ubers in the air. The airspace is becoming more
Move this
complicated.
here.
Flights that are taking place. And so with this
Hey, you better hurry.
we can make the airspace more efficient as the airspace continues to evolve over the course of the next years and decades. And what's also interesting, if we build this new system, it's like your iPhone.
I gotta do it 10 seconds before CPI.
Software updates, as new technology becomes available in the airspace, we can actually
Good luck, guys.
build on top of what we're going to use. But right now, it's like the old flip phone. You can't update anything.
Quick question: in your lanes?
Yeah, it might be. I'm about to start mine.
Order filled. 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 Order target.
Oh, motherfucker, Tom. Did I pass?
Filled.
Fuck.
The market is open.
I think I did pass one Apex. Yeah, looks like I passed half. Yes. Yeah, that's a huge pump.
Order submitted. Order submitted.
It went up big, and it went up. I think I passed Apex, and I did pass 2 Tradeify, so I'm good. 50-50.
One of the most important metrics at this point in time, up 2/10 on
It might be a trolling thing.
Remember, in the rearview mirror, at least up to now, unrevised, that -1/10 was a 5-year low. Let's strip out food and energy. Up 2/10, also what 10 flight to expectations, and it follows up 1/10, which was a 4-year low. Let's take a broader view. Move year over year on headline 2.3. Yes, you guessed it. 1/10 lighter than expectations, 1/10 lighter than rear view mirror, and it also now represents a fresh 4-year low because it's lower than our last look, sequentially lower. And finally, year over year, ex food and energy, known as core, comes in at 2.8. That
order filled.
That one's passed.
and equals the fact that it's a 4-year low.
4.9.
Now, I like doing the indices. This is CPI
Order
index.
submitted.
Okay, that one is blown.
1913.
Trade at 550. Yeah, I gotta recheck all my, make sure it's good. Okay, that one's pass.
New highs. And if we look at core, which
All right.
started in 1957, it comes in at 326.43, and you guessed it, another all-time forever high. We see that yields are moving down a bit because we have made progress.
See ya.
Irony here is the rearview mirror.
Order filled.
Pass, pass, 57.
4 to 5 years in those interim periods at a time where the renewed Fed look on inflation would potentially tear us.
Okay, that's busted. Okay, so all good.
But yet the Fed seemed to pretend we did.
Two
Now
pass,
they're making
two
real
fill.
progress, and all's
Oh
up
no, my Bonox is all admin mode, even though it's 53,000. Motherfucker.
Not an all-time high in those indices. Wouldn't that have to be? That'd be a fluke, right? That'd be like buying a nice suit would be less. That'd be like gold. Well, gold does go down occasionally, but that's not going to happen. That cost of living always goes up, does it not?
Always. If you look at that chart from either
That
1913
sucks.
or 1957, pretty much every month is a new all-time high, other than very few. Every once in a while, you get a bit of a ladder effect, but for the most part, it's a 45-degree line up, and it does really underscore the compounding nature of inflation.
You're a hawk.
That's why I want to like trade over 8. That's
And you never want
crap.
the Fed to cut, and you like building up dry powder, and
Oh.
you always want to wait. But if you were the slightest bit dovish, if you had major concerns about
If it's active, I mean, it's not busted. Mine's busted.
from the
So if yours active on the side, I mean, it's still good.
basically no inflation, he could end up being called too late pal. I mean, that could end up being a prescient moniker.
I'd rather put my faith in, at least for the moment, that the market and the investors
I
that
don't
make
know.
up the market.
So was CPI good or bad? Because it's going back down.
At this point in time, I personally don't see any reason to ease, and I think that deficits is a much bigger issue on rates.
Right. Have you ever seen it?
President who wants to.
Rick, let's get back to 8% on the 10-year. That's when we're comfortable.
Oh, it went
7,
down.
8% on the 10-year. That's
Good for retirees.
Yeah, it is good. It's not good for everything else. All right. We got a guest, Rick, join us now. Ellen Zentner, Morgan Stanley Wealth Management Chief Economic Strategist. Also Roger Ferguson, who also is a Scrooge and never wants to cut. Former Fed Vice Chair. I'll get to you in just a second. I threw down the gauntlet for Roger. That's not really true, Roger, but I'm sure even with this, what is positive news on inflation, you still think the Fed needs to wait to see more of what's happening.
No, I agree completely. I don't mind being called a Scrooge by you, okay? So the thing is, the core inflation number is moving sideways at 2.8. That's not exactly moving directly towards 2. Somewhat better news on so-called headline for sure. But I think the wait-and-see posture at this stage is still merited until we're sure that we're getting progress.
Oh, business spending.
That the uncertainty about tariffs starts to recede a little bit.
Well, if Paul Volcker is the biggest Scrooge of all time, probably. So you probably should take that as a compliment. If there's ever a Mount Rushmore of Fed chiefs, he'd be there. Ellen, this is a good number. Are you happy?
I think, look, this number, you're going to hate this. This number doesn't matter because the tariff effects are going to really start to show up in next month's number. But the Fed probably is going to cut this year. And I understand the wait and see, but you've got 3% growth last year. We're probably slowing to around 1% growth this year. And so inflation, they're going to have an easier time saying this is a one-off level shift in prices. And they're going to be able to look beyond that. And that's what they really want to do.
Is that because you think the jobs market is going to decline as a result, or you think there's just the GDP?
I think there's going to be some more slack, and there should be more slack in the labor market if we're slowing to 1% growth this year.
Why are we slowing? Uncertainty, all the things the tariffs did?
All
Is it
of
self-inflicted?
the things.
Yeah.
But the whole first half of the year is so volatile because you've got incredible pull forward of demand.
A little
You
bit.
have this
It's gonna go down.
final domestic demand in the first quarter. You
Are you gonna go long now? Man, I'm gonna wait for the pullback.
Because you pulled so much demand forward. So average the two, and then the Fed will say, okay, we have a clear picture. You will get some more slack in the labor market. Look at how the tourism numbers are off so sharply. In Canada is off sharply. You've got planes that are not full coming over from Europe. And so what happens when we start to hire for leisure and hospitality jobs in the summer, and we're hiring, but not as much as we normally do? That's negative. You're going to have some slack building in your labor market. It's going to be easier for this Fed to go
Yeah,
ahead
3
and
minutes
cut.
like still at the top, so I'm just waiting for the pullback. Let me show you my other screen.
Something happens that's a negative. You'd want to take the penicillin early.
It's
What happens when you have
no. That's I have a different one. I posted on the Discord.
You would not.
That's like way up there.
If they're going to cut right.
If I was sitting there, I would be like,
Yeah.
why would we cut? Things are okay.
It's gonna drop.
But I would absolutely have that forecast of cutting this year. I mean, when you make decisions by committee, you have to get a consensus.
Yeah.
When things aren't falling apart, it's hard to get consensus.
We'll
But
never
when
get
the unemployment rate starts
I mean,
moving,
data's
when
good,
it's clear
so
the growth is slowing, they'll look through the tariffs and they will cut.
Do you agree with all that, Roger?
still a good gamble today. At least I passed them.
So convinced that they are going to cut
Well,
this year.
on a trader bait, but the other one it's all busted on Evan mode. Evan was passing, but not showing.
2728. Doesn't feel to me like
Total 10, so I passed
we're
one,
not going to get
two, I passed 4,
but we're already in something that
and
looks like
6 busted.
So I would say it's going to be wait and see
Yeah.
meeting by meeting, and I'm not sure. I can
Apex and
pencil in
Tradify,
cuts
Bonox,
just yet. It
it's
may
all
well
busted.
happen, but based on what I see today, I don't think it would be the end of the
Yeah, I
world
need that
if they're
Tradify
moving
because I ain't
sideways
got no
for the whole
funding.
year. If inflation is in fact staying roughly,
Apex is
where it
300, so
today.
that's good.
But here's what they're going to say. They're going to be able to say, and I absolutely, Roger, if they end up not cutting this year, I won't be surprised at all. But here's what they're going to be able to say. We're not
My
raising-
FE
we're not
journey is
cutting
like
to
down
stimulate the economy
1,500.
because the economy has slowed dramatically this year,
So
and we
that's
don't
bad.
need to have rates this high.
Yeah,
won't
if
be
not, it's
easing,
like
it'll just be
$19.
either of you think that's
No,
a
no, it
subtle
had to be
distinction
active.
between easing and cutting. It's a subtle distinction between easing and cutting. I think
Yeah,
they're going to have
yeah.
to keep an eye on inflation.
Yeah.
I think the rationale for cutting is we're highly confident that inflation is continuing to come down. At a core, inflation is moving sideways at 2.8.
Any money?
I at least think it's hard to make the highly
It is
confident
dropping now.
inflation's coming down argument. But you know, just
It
we
is.
wouldn't be surprised if they didn't cut. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
stunned if they did cut.
No,
but
today is,
the data will
it's not
give
reset,
them
it's
permission to
buy.
cut. See is what the data
Let me
is
see. I just saw it today.
for the deficit this year, and you saw the reconciliation.
Promotion.
How about
Yeah,
how
just
this is
any.
the
Oh, it's
I'm gonna give you
45%
the
on
absolute
anything
number.
150 or higher.
And bigger.
The expensive one.
And with this bill, next year would be big and bigger, and the year after that would be big.
Yeah, I mean,
So why not
I
keep,
think
maybe we should keep rates high.
if we add $4 trillion to the deficit, I think that will be a positive surprise to the market
That's
because
when
the
it
market's
dips so
probably
we can
expecting closer to
long.
$4.5 trillion. But it's a big.
This in a year?
When you pass the tax bill over over a 10-year period,
Oh, I
you're
thought you
gonna
took
be
profit.
adding $4 trillion or more to the deficit.
Oh, we're taking.
This is why the term premium. One of the reasons why the term premium is higher because we're
That's
expecting
what I
a lot
mean,
of
yeah.
issuance.
Maybe we shouldn't cut just not to enable for that. I think that's what Roger's always thinking. In the back of your mind, you're like a closet vigilante. Are you not, Roger? I think. You know, I think you gave me the highest compliment, which is Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker is everyone's hero on this space, and so I'm happy to be associated with that. Yeah, biggest Scrooge ever in the federal. All right.
The Apex
Thank
just
you, Roger.
approved my payout.
Thank you. Up next, FA Director Bill Pulte on mortgage rates and more. We're coming back.
Yeah.
Seems to be the problem, so there.
That's not bad.
Innovation changes everything. We're rethinking the world. Before investing carefully, we need to consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more. Prospectus at Invesco.com.
Welcome to Club Champion. With AI assistant,
Lifetime, right?
give you longer
Lifetime
drives,
fee.
fewer strokes, and a little more swagger. Full bag fittings are just
$80.
$100 with code
Yeah.
PERFECTFIT at
85.
clubchampion.com.
Yeah, I remember someone said JG says 85.
House stealing, the latest scam where a cyber thief transfers the title of your home
Yeah.
out of your name and steals your hard-earned equity.
It's
There
roughly
you go. Keep
60
dropping,
to 90
baby.
days for that person to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. You start getting foreclosure notices, and you realize
See, the bot was
you've got
long, so the
foreclosure
bot
on your
knew.
house that you didn't even know existed.
Unfortunately, it's on you.
905 was when the bot long. It went up to
Check your title status now
164.
at HomeTitleLock.com.
Oh, dip soap is on sale. We need it?
Yeah. Oh, I think we need ketchup too.
What's in there?
Here. The ketchup's not in the fridge.
Ketchup does not go in the fridge.
Like when you were a kid coming up, you did this in your mother's house.
Right.
Baby, she failed you. I love your mother, but she ain't raised you right.
You try telling her that.
No, I will.
Wow.
Good wow or bad wow?
Buying a car is kind of a big deal. There's like a million options, and you deserve something you love. At Car Gurus, we get it. As the #1 most visited car shopping site, we make sure your big deal is the best deal.
Searching for the perfect underwear? Tommy John combines innovation with excellence. It's softer than cotton, with up to 4 times the stretch of competing brands. Tommy John, because if you dress to the nines, your underwear should be a 10. Go to TommyJohn.com now for 20% off your first order.
To avoid digital threats, just turn on NordVPN. We improve your protection against trackers, malicious websites, and malware-ridden downloads. Get the deal now.
Sail through the heart of historic cities and unforgettable scenery with Viking. Unpack once and get closer to iconic landmarks, local life, and cultural treasures. Because when you experience Europe on a Viking longship, you'll spend less time getting there and more time being there. Viking, exploring the world in comfort.
This is our call to attention, to answer the call of the recliner.
We're going to take out because we've been at this all day.
It's the Lazy Boy Memorial Day sale. Great deals on your new favorite lazy spots, plus 0% interest for 48 months. We will take a load off by loading up on snacks. Hurry in. Memorial Day sale going on now. Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
Pedro's parents planned for adventure, but they didn't plan for him to leave his friend. If you were made to get more than you bargained for, we were made for you. Save on packages.
Hey, wake up. Bye.
Expedia. Made to travel.
Okay. They're coming back. Hello? Okay, let's see if my Discord's working.
There's an easier way to bank and get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
You're telling me when I switch to T-Mobile...
So all the CPI gang is gone now. It's going back to the same level before CPI.
There's always a trade.
For the first time ever,
Yep.
there's no trade-in needed. Also at T-Mobile, you save at least 20% versus the other big
I
guys.
feel like I have to give you something in return for karma. Box of raisins. I'm a mom. A balloon. Banana peel.
For the first time ever, when you switch to T-Mobile, get a new iPhone 16 Pro on us. A T Pro, but there's no trade-in.
Take whatever you want.
All right, let's talk mortgage rates, the future of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and more. Joining us right now is Bill Pulte. He's the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. He serves as chairman of both Fannie Mae
Drop it,
and
baby.
Freddie Mac. And Director Pulte, welcome. You have been busy in your first days in this job. You've had a flurry of activity. You want to talk through what you've been doing since you got there?
Sure. You know, we had the benefit of Trump 1.0, and I actually said to the old director, Mark Calabria, I said, what are some of the things that you would do? And
You
frankly,
see my mouse on the screen?
we did it.
It's at the
And
top.
we're going to keep on doing it. You know, the last 4 years, inflation has been out of control, Becky. It's crushed the housing market in terms of affordability.
I'm gonna
and
wait.
frankly, we're working every day to reverse it, both HUD and us.
What can you do on that front? How can you slow inflation?
Well, we have a great.
That's why I shorted.
Totally focused on reducing inflation. As you know, inflation ripped the last 4 years. And what happened when that happened was interest rates went up dramatically. What happened was people got locked into their homes. They got locked into these rates. And as you know, you have new homes and then you have old homes, and they both compete against each other. The only problem is that the old homes have been basically untap worthy. That's not a word, but you can't even tap into these old homes because they have such low interest rates locked into them. So you only have
Nobody's
new home
gonna
builders.
move. Right.
Yes, it's been great for my alma mater, Pulte Homes, and D.R. Horton and Lennar. But is it really good for the American consumer if you can't get that old inventory moving?
Well, we have seen higher rates recently. In fact, you're looking at 30-year fixed right now, mortgage at just under 7%, 6.92%. Those are not rates that are going to lure people out who have 2.9, 3.5% mortgages. And, the president's been very vocal about wanting lower rates, but then so far the FOMC has not responded.
I wouldn't bet against this man. I'm very confident, frankly, that he'll solve the interest rates. He knows a lot about
you guys
interest
alone?
rates. He knows a lot about tariffs. There may be some intraday or otherwise noise. But the other thing is to get Americans earning again and not have inflation. Home prices being up is not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself if you have people having earning potential. But for the last 4 years, people's earnings, as a matter of adjusted for inflation, has been reduced, and people couldn't afford rent, they couldn't afford to buy a new home, etc.
So let's talk a little bit about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. You recently fired the CEO of Freddie. You fired the majority of the boards of both Fannie and Freddie. You appointed yourself the chairman of both of those boards. And there have been some pushback from Democrats in particular who are worried that these rapid scale changes, depending on what comes next, could upend the housing industry. Fannie and Freddie are responsible for about half of the loans in the $13 trillion home mortgage market in the United States. What's happening there? What's your plan? And what do you say to those charges?
Well, this has all made the housing market way stronger. Frankly, Fannie and Freddie were bloated. People weren't even working there. There were 16,000 employees. Becky, we'd have kitchens where they were making caramel popcorn and cheeseburgers and pizza. Nobody was there to eat these foods, so we ordered everybody back to work. I was very disappointed with some of the stuff I found also in terms of the board, in my opinion, as it relates to multifamily fraud and then also the work from home, amongst other things. We need to have an FHFA director that's engaged. One of the things that's interesting is many of the employees at Fannie and Freddie have never seen an FHFA director in these buildings. I actually said to the driver, who's driven for all the directors before me, I said, I'm going to, on my first day, I said, let's go to Fannie and Freddie in Virginia. He says, sir, I don't think that they're in Virginia. I've never been there before. I've never been to these buildings. We need a director who's in there. President Trump hired a businessman. We're going to run these things as businesses. We're going to get these businesses turned around, and they're going to be great American icons once again, but in a safe and sound manner this time.
What's the fraud that you think you've uncovered there?
Well, we see fraud everywhere, unfortunately. I think that generally speaking, the businesses are very safe, but we're making mortgage fraud a huge area of focus, specifically on single family and multifamily. A lot of people just think that it existed in one or the other. We see it in both, and we're going to eradicate it. It doesn't matter whether you're a politician. It doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer. It doesn't matter whether you're somebody famous. If you commit mortgage fraud, we are going to go after you.
Some of the questions that have been raised about this are how these things get rolled up and then packaged off. I mean, that's what caused the 2008 financial crisis, having these mortgages rolled up, these mortgages that hadn't been checked. Do you see fraud on that level?
No, I don't see it on
Do we have any more data coming out? Let me
level. I
see.
see that we have, frankly, safety and soundness in the market. These businesses are very safe. It's just, as an American, when you're walking through the halls of Fannie and Freddie and you don't see anybody showing up, or when you see people trying to normalize the word fraud around these once great institutions, it's discomforting. And so we're taking action and saying, anytime we hear the word fraud, alarm bells need to go off in our head, and we need to do something about this. And so we're working with the DOJ and the FBI and frankly, all of our partners, all law enforcement, no matter where it is, to prosecute this mortgage fraud. And I tell you, if I told you some of these stories in terms of mortgage fraud, you wouldn't believe it.
Are Fannie and Freddie going to be privatized?
We'll see. You know, we have a great deal maker as president of the United States. We have, for the first time, you know, a full term. You know, we started out early in terms of being a confirmed director of FHFA. We have a great Treasury Secretary, and we have a great president. So I look forward to working with them. My job right now is focused on making sure that there's operational efficiencies, that the bloat is gone, that these businesses are safe and sound, and that, frankly, they're in tip-top shape to do whatever the president elects to do.
I like that first question, Bill, where Becky goes, well, what did you do in the last week? It sounded like an Elon Musk doge stick. You got an email. And then you listed like 5 things you did in the past week. So you passed with flying colors.
Well, it starts at the top, and President Trump's very busy, as you know. And the good news is he's a home builder and he's a builder. So being in this position, it's really kind of nice, frankly.
We've never met a real estate person that didn't want lower rates either, I don't think. You think there's room to move there, Bill?
I think the president is all over it. I don't think anybody knows interest rates better than him. I think he's on it between the taxes and the tariffs and the deregulation. I'm very optimistic about this administration. And frankly, I think that there's going to be, at the right time, a housing boom. But we have to reverse what's happened these last 4 years, Joe. Nobody could afford a home these last 4 years. And frankly, people could barely afford rent the last 4 years. We need to change that. We're working every day to fix that.
Director Pulte, thank you.
Thank you.
Squawk Bucks will be right back.
Agriculture is the main life in Sussex County, and I'm very proud of that. I felt like we were being left behind. Everybody around us seemed to have internet, but we did not. When I found out that Comcast was coming, I ran down the road and I said, welcome. High-speed internet is one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward. And now future generations will thrive here in Sussex County.
Every shot is an opportunity. And success requires drive, resilience, and sometimes luck. But what if luck had less to do with it? What if we had the tools to help us practice smarter, the insights to gain an edge, and the data to inform our strategy? Taking our games from that to this.
Order filled.
Order filled.
KPMG Performance Insights are transforming the game for the entire LPGA Tour.
Double check that. That's pretty good. Not crying, huh? What? No, don't worry about that. Here we go.
Asking the right question.
Order submitted.
Impact your future.
Are you qualified to do this?
What?
Order filled. Order filled.
Do you have a question?
Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's why it's gotta be a CFP. Find your CFP professional at letsmakeaplan.org.
What if you could invest in a future where skin cancer treatment is non-invasive and relatively painless? Medicus Pharma's groundbreaking solution delivers chemotherapy directly to the tumor site, offering a mostly painless alternative to invasive surgeries. With the skin cancer treatment market expected to exceed $20 billion by 2030, Medicus is poised to meet the demand for cost-effective, non-surgical options. Now advancing phase 2 studies. Medicus Pharma, leading the
That show was good. Short again.
Dreams. It's about making them possible.
Order submitted.
It's growth. It's confident access to capital. It's building a business. It's job creation. It's the stadium, the hospital, the new school gymnasium, the factories, the farmers, our first responders. It's making the future. It's our story, our country. For over 100 years, this has brought clarity to capital markets so that economies can grow with confidence. Moody's makes it possible.
Welcome to CNBC Plus. Where to?
CNBC Plus. On-the-go access to global market data, news, and analysis as it happens. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Spot Box United Health Bank of Andrew Whitty is officially stepping down now as CEO for personal reasons. The board chairman, Stephen Helmsley, taking over as CEO and will remain chairman. Now, Whitty's going to stay on as a senior advisor. The company has now suspended, though, 2025 outlook, saying medical expenditures are now expected to be higher than it had anticipated. United Health does say, though, that it expects to return to growth, it says, in 2026. That stock off about 10%.
Coming up next, check on the markets after the CPI data. We're coming right back after this.
There's some things that work better together, like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. Voya helps you choose the right amounts without over or under investing across all your benefits and savings options, so you can feel confident in your financial choices.
Two and two together. Well planned, well invested, well protected. That's what makes this game more unique.
Hey, you all play pickleball?
Tonight.
So, see you later. To get what you need same day, the world needs warehouses. Blackstone made the connection early and became the largest private investor in logistics globally. It's investments like these that can help build wealth for your clients. Every dog is unique. That's why at the Farmer's Dog, we put your dog at the center of everything we do, with food that's freshly made, packed with nutrients, and pre-portioned. We're making it easy for you to take care of your buddy.
These Katie's are fire. Hey, you work here? Well, kid, take notes. Every shoe for every athlete.
Switch to T-Mobile. You'll give me an iPhone 16 Pro.
That's right.
There's always a trade-in.
Not a T-Mobile. For the first time ever, there's no trade-in needed.
No.
Yes. Also, at T-Mobile, you save at least 20% versus the other big guys.
If you ever have to give me something in return for karma. Box of raisins. I'm a mom. A balloon. Banana peel.
For the first time ever, when you switch to T-Mobile, get a new iPhone 16 Pro online and keep your old phone because there's no trade-in needed.
Take whatever you want. I am Polestar 3. I am pure electric performance. From the straightaways to the hairpin turns, I am designed to be driven. The drive of tomorrow. I am Polestar 3. Switch to Polestar. Offer ends June 2nd.
So the final check on the markets, that Dow is down in large part due to what we just talked about with United Health. Those shares are way down, and it's a Dow component, but the NASDAQ is now adding to yesterday's gains, so a small piece, but it was up a big percentage move yesterday after the China tariff pause. Take a look at the 10-year and the yield curve. Oh, let's look at energy first, 62.83, so that big bounce yesterday as well. In oil, back above 60, got as low as about 57. And then crypto at one point almost looked like it was going to challenge the all-time high. Still might. It was 105 for a while. It was 103, 688. When I like to look at gold too, it got crushed yesterday. I probably coming back up a little bit. I think I got time to look at that at about 25 seconds. It's back about $17 after a big sell-off yesterday. We got tomorrow. Oh, I got a graduation. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, congratulations to Scott.
And then all the graduates, the biggie this year, this year. So biggie. I'm gonna be stadium. Wow.
I've got one at Central Park next week.
You do. Make sure you join us tomorrow. Join them tomorrow. Park on the street is there.
Exchange. Pre-markets adding to Monday's monster bounce. The president's in Riyadh ahead of a big investment summit. We'll have full coverage. And CPI comes in light. Gasoline and food prices fall. 10-year right around 4.46 today. Roadmap begins with stocks looking to build on yesterday's massive rally. Nasdaq's back in bull market territory. Dow exits correction, and the S&P notches its highest level since early March.
Plus, United Health shares, they're down sharply in the pre-market. The company announces it suspends its 2025 outlook. And perhaps as importantly, CEO Andrew Whitty stepping down from his role. That's immediately. President Trump in Saudi Arabia today. It's the first stop on a 4-day trip to the Middle East, his first international trip of his second administration.
Let's begin with the markets and CPI after yesterday's rally. Looking through some of the categories, Jim, mining for any tariff impact, maybe some in furniture, living room and bedroom
Right,
furniture.
see that maybe a pull through there, but I was impressed with food at home, which matters tremendously. That was a very, very good number. Used cars surprised me. I know I went over the Carvana call, and you could have argued, I would have said maybe used cars going to have a little boost here because of how much new cars cost. Didn't. These are very good numbers. I know initially the bond market went nuts for it, and rates went down, and then they kind of come back up a little bit. They're down again, but I mean, I think that you could argue there's room for Powell if you get a couple months of this. You know, David, these are not numbers that signal stagflation. Even as we have lots of people who come on air, by the way, a lot of commentary from the big strategists who say that the stagflation group of people really missed this round.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was yesterday, Austin Goolsbee also backing away a bit. I don't want to characterize it too much, but not saying that we're going to be getting great growth and still concerned on that front. Obviously, you remember the thing.
Right.
It's going to chop down.
Goolsbee, like an honest broker, but one of the things that's amazing is like, look, I try so hard to know what, try to forecast the CPI.
It's going to go down.
Would I have said that food would be good? Well, I don't know. A lot of
Didn't it dump yesterday at open?
Fresh vegetables. Would I have said that used cars would be good?
Yeah, yesterday it did dump at open, and then it came back up.
But some of these things are very sticky. Insurance is still bad. No one seems to want to come in underneath the insurers. That usually happens.
Yeah, auto insurance for the year up 6.4.
That's bad.
Yeah, that does make some sense. Airfares though on the month down a couple.
Right.
2.8, 2.4.
I guess that era may be over. I wonder whether I saw Marriott was up yesterday and American Express is up, but I would say that if you want to go Airbnb, it's down. There's enough that's negative that's going lower in the system. And Carl, I could argue, yes, tariffs are going to hurt, but the whole tariff as big tax theory, that may not have gravitas.
Why not? What? Why not?
No, because we have some prices going down to give. Look, it's a tax. I'm just saying it may not be the killer to the economy that it was.
Even if we start off at 34% on China on Liberation Day, like that had been the number instead of 125 going to 145, that we'd be where we are in the market right now?
And not higher.
Or not lower.
Right, not lower. Well, look,
I don't know. No, I'm just saying. I'm curious what you think. Whether there had been a differentiation or whether we've essentially gotten to the same place we would have if we just started at 30 out.
Well, the problem is midterms are next year, and primary season will start. And I think the administration needed to get this process to the table soon.
Right, but what's not talked about, and I hate to be anecdotal, but my wife's messed up. It's a huge import for us, okay? And the peso, got clubbed. We're making it enough, and it's not costing that much. We end up being a push. I think that the dollar, I got on tonight on holdings, and you had a weaker dollar. Jeez, things are better when the peso's weak, better when the dollar. There's a lot of currency stuff.
There is a lot of currency stuff, but no, weaker dollar.
But not against the peso fell apart.
No, okay, but that's specific to the peso. But there does seem to be a strategy to try to get both the dollar down and rates down.
Right, but it did work domestically. It did work in North America.
That conceivably would be helpful in many ways. The U.S. economy.
Yes, very helpful
for those who export and for those who are trying to buy a home and everything else associated.
And that's why I don't want to be too pessimistic because
you are pessimistic.
No, I'm not.
Have not been pessimistic.
No, I'm not.
The last day.
I've been more critical of the billionaires who tell me that I ought to sell everything because that would be smart. And yet, one of the things that we talked about yesterday, retails stayed the course. The institutions were the ones that got scared.
That's right.
Right. Although, I mean, to be fair, in April, all of us were thinking about worst case multiples.
Yes,
don't you remember?
Without a doubt. And those
Absolutely.
But I mean, that old advice that we've heard so often. Final market time is impossible.
And you can't be in. You've got to be in for those big days. But I would point out that look, we were hawkish on trade, and somehow we got a little Dutch.
I have a short at 12, so
I mean,
hopefully
everything has to
it's.
be put in perspective. We're going to have a tariff rate that
that exceeds anything we've had in this country, I think, broadly speaking,
Since World War II.
Thank you. At the very least, if not in 100 years.
Right, but then, look, can we minimize all these trillions of dollars that are supposed to be building things here, or is that fanciful? Does anyone think that there'll be shovels?
I think there will be some. It's what I think is the incremental number is the one that is harder to account for. How much more as a result of the policy will accrue?
Total.
Perhaps some. That's that we did get. I think we took in what 16 billion in tariff money in April that helped the deficit a little bit. Although frankly, we're still up 13% on the deficit.
Remember,
by the way, as members of Congress try to put the finishing touches
Right.
on
And the percentage of GDP is going to rise because growth slows. That's at least the forecast.
You know, we were talking about everything painless, like everything works out great. David, I never thought that David represented that you would articulate the MAGA view to actually having a little positive stuff. That's just going to say that Dr. Oz is good. You know, I like Oz.
Oz is fine, yeah. RK Jr., by the way, his math is atrocious.
Well, he's
yesterday, I think you said the only thing we talked about was a 20% increase in European drug prices would result in $10 trillion. His math was only a little off. 300 billion.
Algebraic.
20% is 60 billion. It would take 167 years to get to 10
Hold
billion.
up, Gambit.
Yeah, so
Did you gamble?
yeah, no, I'm not here to argue what's
I think that cheap shot. How long you work on that cheap shot?
Guessing
You
it's
know,
a
I just
no.
did the math.
It's just a trillion.
Order filled.
Trillion here, trillion there. You know what we say? Look, I'm going to go back
I'm
to the
short.
CPI for a second. I mean, if
Order
household
submitted.
furnishings, if that's what's up,
Appliances.
appliances, appliances, by the way, we don't make many
We
appliances
did.
in this country. That's not going to help. But I think the president, if he were home, he'd be saying too late is really being too
Mr.
late.
Too late.
Mr. Too Late. You know what? It's so interesting to make fun of distinguished people who have worked, given up great years for the government. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can make fun of people. I just, do you call Bobby Kennedy Jr. Mr. Math or anything like that?
No, I don't. I'm not sure I agree with him on he claims to have expertise in, but that's not an area that I choose to get into.
No, I think that you're not an name caller. Well, I think he's not an name caller. Okay. He's a lover, not a fighter.
Yes.
I am. I've tried to be.
Which Jensen Wong says, and where's Jensen Wong right now?
He's in Saudi Arabia right now, and obviously a very important trip. What is he going to be able to accomplish there?
I think that Saudi Arabia is going to be the next hyperscale.
That's part of the thesis here. The president is, of course, kicking off his trip to the Middle East, where he's looking to strike a lot of economic deals. Today in Saudi Arabia, he and the Crown Prince, NBS, greeted CEOs, including Sam Altman, Jensen Wong, Lisa Su, Elon Musk, all in the country to attend this Saudi-U.S. investment forum in Riyadh. President slated to speak at that event in about an hour. Already got some headlines from Larry Fink, Schwartzman's there, Khashoggi.
Yeah, it is quite a cast of Alex Karp.
Yeah, I gotta just take profit and come back in and out.
Happened before. Well, a lot of these same people are people who attend the FII Institute, which is both in Riyadh. There was one in Miami that I attended.
Take profit and come back in. It's gonna go up and down nonstop. It adds up, dude. If you keep doing it, it adds up. That's what I've been doing. 6 points every time.
But we could do it in the real alphabet kind of grading thing.
But it is, you don't. In the Trump administration, this is something you see more typically. Certainly not in the last administration, as you
Well,
made
you
the
have a
point.
keen eye for the odds.
Yeah, thank you. It's gotten me very.
I remember when Biden convened some Congress.
Yes,
There could be some people who were involved with wind.
He convened the
Solo.
EV summit and left out one key person. There he is.
Yeah.
He'll be coming up, by the way, in a conversation from Saudi as well. There's the president with him. Yes. But I mean, to your point, listen, the Saudis, a lot of cheap power, a desire as well for a lot of. Oh, that's live, by the way. A lot of the chips that NVIDIA sells, as you watch the two walking together there, and it will be a key question as to whether and what the demand will be, because you can put up a lot of data centers in the kingdom.
I think all these people who've been saying it's time to dump NVIDIA, which is pretty much almost everybody, should take a look and think, does anyone want to be a hyperscaler besides Amazon and Jazzy outfit? The answer is, I think Saudi Arabia is trying to make a major move to be more than an oil country. I met someone, by the way,
And to have investment in the country as opposed to
Order
just
filled.
I took my profit.
right. And at the end of the day, I mean, obviously they're
Order submitted.
Back short again.
see this. And I spent some
Order
spent
filled.
all the time actually with the man who's building the city underneath.
Order submitted.
It's not sitting underneath. It's the he means the line.
Right, but I mean, candidly, that's it. That's a
Order
project of ways
submitted.
that we never.
No, it's an enormous undertaking. It will take many years to accomplish, obviously, and it's very ambitious, but would be amazing if and when it is.
But they've already had to retrench on some of the spending because their budgets have come under some pressure.
Absolutely, the balance sheet's not that good. But you know what? Let's just talk about the Middle East in general. I still am reeling from where Disney could have put a theme park anywhere.
Well, but they chose Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, I gave them. I
Order
pushed them all
canceled.
to Mexico.
I know you did. They didn't listen to you. It's
Not
not.
one. No, not only did not listen, they dissed me.
I can't say that that's wrong.
Order
for them not to
submitted.
listen to you. I mean, you are a theme park expert, of course.
Well, I mean,
Like
it's
in
about
some of the other areas.
I mean, I've been to all the theme parks. I mean, where does that put me in the pantheon?
There's a great piece in the Journal today. This reporter tries to do the Magic Kingdom on the cheap. No fast passes. It's hard.
It's not easy.
7 hours in line.
I was with a family of 6 that dropped 40 G's at the park, and they said that they had to queue up to spend 40 G's on the park. So maybe Iger's not,
As we, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well,
you,
it's
but as we look at the president and MBS, it is interesting the cast. I mean, are Sam Altman and Elon Musk allowed in the same room? Because
That's a
the
great
two of them do
question.
not have great love for each other.
Is
So it's
Alex
interesting
Mark
to see.
allowed to be in the same room with anybody?
I don't know.
That's an interesting
That's a key question as well. Obviously, then you've got Andy Jassy and Ruth Porat, but
Hey, money's money.
yeah.
We should mention these that Ruth Porat is an Alphabet president. Jassy, of course, looks like he may have gotten the de minimis exception. And from
We should mention that as well, because this time yesterday we thought the de minimis exception and the key players there, for example, Temu Sheehan, anything less than 800, which you came in tariff-free, has been lowered to 54%.
isn't that interesting?
And that is a significant decrease. Will it be enough to reconstitute those business
Just
models?
wait, it's
in the
gonna
US,
drop.
And therefore, the advertising that
It's
goes
gonna
along
drop
with
at
it
open.
is a key component of Alphabet. And
Don't
Meta.
long
Those
it,
things,
just wait.
for the spend that Team Moon and Sheehan do there.
I'll tell
I've
you,
been shorting.
I know when I was with Andy Jassy, he made the point that the reason why people like to buy
Oh, me?
on Amazon is because Amazon gives you.
Yeah, I shorted like 4 times already, in and out.
Now, when I ordered stuff from Temu,
Yeah, I've been shorting at 112, 114.
but when I bought that cocktail dress for my wife,
Oh, yeah, I'm on mute?
Too fixed.
Wait, hold on.
I thought it was a bikini.
Wait, I'm not mute on here?
That was
Oh, my sound's bad. I've been muted the whole time. I was telling you, like, don't short. Don't short. I mean, don't long. Yeah,
Sister did.
I've been shorting like 4 times in and
I
out.
was there when Jensen Wong got the wood put to him by Biden. After working
Yeah,
with Biden,
I'm just taking 5 points.
trying to do everything he could, he still got his head slammed because the
Order
18
submitted.
friends that we have, 18 friends. David, I have more friends in the country.
No, you're talking about the diffusion.
I had 508 people on what?
There are still key questions here. Obviously, the H20 has been banned, essentially banned in China. That was the chip they designed specifically for the Chinese market.
Right, and it was a
$5.5 billion write-down. So what access will NVIDIA have to
Nice.
the Chinese market in terms of its chips? And then to your point, what is going to replace the diffusion rule? Well, yes, it's gone, but they have not said that they're still trying to identify what makes sense from national security.
I just need a
point of view.
drop.
Meaning who's going to transship to China?
Correct.
We put tariffs on Vietnam because we're worried about rerouting.
I felt and went to the administration and said, listen, can we please distinguish between American companies that come out of Vietnam and not American? Vietnam is really just a giant transship. Now, it is true that there is a tremendous amount of stuff that the Chinese have figured out how to get through. It's called piglet.
Yes.
Eric Gambler. You know him? Great economist.
No, I don't. Eric Campbell, you don't know. Eric Campbell? Eric Ambler or Gambler? Not familiar with the name. And I like to think I do a lot of work. Oh my God, my first. Give me the clock favor. A lot. I want the clock favor. That is the favor I'm used to. Oh, let me get her. I only do it her. Yes, the perplexity had been changing UNH for me.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to ask Rod.
We're going to get to shares of the UNH under some pressure today as the CEO
Order
steps down.
Wait, we have Trump today?
The Dow futures.
Let me actually.
Take a look at the pre-market. We'll get to Under Armour and coin and some news on Boeing and Apple in a moment. You know.
Insurance policy you no longer need.
I think so too.
Sell your policy, even a term policy for an immediate cash payment.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-523-6900. Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
I am Tony Hawk, and like many of you, I take a statin to reduce cholesterol. But statins can also deplete CoQ10 levels. That's why my doctor recommended Qunol CoQ10. Qunol has the #1 cardiologist-recommended form of CoQ10. Qunol, the brand I trust.
We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered Arjun's questions all day. It's our time to prioritize. No priorities. Slide.
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-done list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
Like getting comfy on our lazy boy furniture.
Lazy boy. Long live the lazy.
Introducing CNBC Plus, a new streaming platform from the #1 source in business news. On-the-go access to international financial markets, business news, and analysis as it happens. Bell to bell, global live stream. CNBC Plus, real-time data.
We have about 10 minutes. Let's go.
Business day lineup on demand. CNBC Plus. Access any market, anytime, anywhere.
What time is Trump's coming on? Hold on. Oh, he's already on? Yeah, he posted on there. Man, Trump looked like a dick. Look at him. He looks bad. I know. He looks so mad.
Yeah.
You save big on orders. You can afford to give yourself a pass. What do we think? Gas pass by DoorDash. More savings.
Dude, he's so rich. Why be president? Just enjoy your life. Yeah, I guess. No point though, you know what I mean? You only got like a few years left. Spend your money. What's this about? Nothing big.
Down sharply in the pre-market. Nation's largest health insurer suspending its full-year outlook, citing some higher-than-expected medical costs. Company also announcing Andrew Whitty is stepping down as CEO for personal reasons. Chairman Stephen Hemsley is returning to the CEO role, effective immediately. Jim, they do say they expect to return to growth in 26.
Right. I mean, they obviously suspended guidance. I know Helmsley. I've interviewed.
I had 200 left on the DD on my funded. Now I'm up 900. Yeah.
Person reason, but when I interviewed him, people remember this. There's United Health, and there's everybody else,
right?
And that doesn't.
Order submitted.
No, not at all. In fact, we should point out, by the way, he's taken over immediately as CEO. It's not an interim position. He's CEO. He's 72 years old. So, way to go.
I get told. No, but that's old.
No, I'm very encouraged by that because it gives me a lot more runway here.
Yeah.
Well, and you do as well because you are ancient. You sit next to me every day. So, that all said,
What's
to your
up?
point, when they warned on earnings, it was also an outlier. Humana and CVS did not have the same issue. They took their hit last last year. They got their act together. These guys, Jim,
What?
is
I didn't hear
it?
you,
Did
sorry.
they've gone after some dual eligible. That means Medicaid and Medicare. They also perhaps the coding that they came into some criticism for.
Sorry, that.
We don't know. Are they
Can you
not
type it
coding
out?
as aggressively? Is that
Hmm.
hitting margins? But something's
I
going on.
couldn't hear
that's
you.
very
I was playing techno music.
specific. I got you, and I'll share it. The Justice Department was about to go after them with everything. Jonathan Cantor will tell you that. They were going after these guys the same way they went after Google, as saying they were monopolists. It would have been, I think, disaster to have a company like this that is so public be known as monopolist. I think that they were being less monopolistic. Now, the reason I say that is because I know that Cantor.
Is that the one that playing the techno music?
In their sites, they're not going to be targeted now. They really get jackboot. So maybe they were. Yeah. But tragedy there. Without a doubt. With a man whom everyone respected. That was horrific. But it is worth noting, again, when they, last quarter, when they, really, the stock, I mean, they blew up. Stock's down 20%. They blew up, man. They blew up. Remember, you mispriced on Medicare Advantage again. They, a lot more medical usage than had been anticipated. This was not an issue shared by CBS or Humana, for example. CBS owning it. CBSPN. And so, yet again, now they're suspending guidance. So this issue continues. They haven't contained it yet. And it's going to be Helmsley's problem, I guess. I do think Woody was forced out. His personal reasons, so I hesitate to step on it. But I will tell you that it's not clear. I don't know if David Joyner would take total credit for how the CBS had to turn around, but Ed Price right. And CBS is a huge beneficiary of the pullback of Walgreens and Rite Aid. I still think they're going up against Amazon, which is just, Amazon can go and put a distribution center right wherever nearby there's a bunch of Walgreens, Rite Aids. And I order something. I order stuff that is common, and it's always there when I get home. I order in the morning. It's just so great, and I don't have to have a key. A guy opening a key. And I know that, David, you have the key, because when I go, it's always 5 minutes, like I have 5 minutes. But you have the key.
At what store do you press the button and David Faber helps you get your deodorant?
Yeah. I know. Does he wear deodorant? I know where it is. Come running. Really, all these years, and now you're telling me? I do, yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Then I want to go through to the store. David's got the key. Because it's impossible to go anywhere. And I'm not kidding. Target. What are you doing? The key is Amazon. Send me this, please. That's the key. He's amazing. Aren't I? Yeah. Amazing. Not well read.
We'll get Kramer's Mad Dash and count down to the opening bell. Meantime, futures pretty constructive after that Monday rally. Stay with us.
Experience the power of CNBC Pro. Never miss a moment with exclusive access to market-moving interviews and stock picks. Become a smarter investor with the power of CNBC Pro. Go to CNBC.com.
You made money though, right? So that's good. Yeah, you good. Nice.
We know with the new grill, charcoal, gas, pellet, or griddle, we've got the perfect grill for you. Because only your local Ace has all the best brands in one place, like Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. With free assembly and delivery of your new grill, along with all the sauces, rubs, and grilling extras, you'll have everything you need for your perfect barbecue. That sounds pretty perfect.
Kind of long at when it hits like 45 or 35, but not right now. Yeah, the 9:45 or 9:35. I want to wait for Trump to get off TV.
Is this your dream of retirement? How about this sweet deal? I like fishing. Or is this a little more your style? Retiring wealth isn't a guarantee, it's a goal. It's easy when markets are going up. But what about when they're not? That's why you use this. Going for Fisher's Retirement Survival Kit, featuring your guide to surviving market volatility, our stock market outlook, plus the Fisher Investments Difference. 3 indispensable guides, yours free for calling 1-800-213-5317. Fisher Investments' disciplined approach will help see you through the market's ups and downs and give you the confidence you need to reach a comfortable retirement. And our fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. Call now for your free retirement survival kit. 1-800-213-5317. See if your dream retirement is on track. If your portfolio is $1 million or more, call Fisher today. Call 1-800-213-5317.
Nuveen invests with the foresight and vision to anticipate the needs of future generations, to build strong portfolios that deliver lasting legacies, to innovate and adapt for what's just around the corner. Because after 125 years of yesterdays, Nuveen knows your ultimate stakeholder is tomorrow. Nuveen, invest like the future is watching.
The opening bell is brought to you by Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
Let's see how many insults we can trade in the next. No, you know, I love you. I love you dearly. It's love first. We got a match
2 minutes, boys.
down to the opening bell. You want to go FedEx? Yeah, there's a story out that FedEx, which you really just not been a big fan of taking business from Amazon. We know that. Fred Smith's made it over and over again. Well, there was a deal announced where they're going to take some because of United Parcel pulling back. It's not big. Okay, I want people to know that it's not their decision to go in big at all. I would say that we should remember that they are a bigger winner than people realize on the possibility of port trade. And that does matter, and they've got really good technology when you get how much that has to be paid. They're on top of their game. I think the stock can have another leg up. Yeah, because they were, if you look at it, they were one of the most crushed companies. I also think that they have benefited from some of the UPS decisions, which haven't really gone well. No, UPS has been a very poor performer for thus far this year. Yeah, I know. Look, I want UPS. We all want carriers to go at it, as we are, if we're consumers. But I think FedEx is appreciably better than United Parcel.
Well, it sounds like they're going to be in charge of delivering a lot of large Amazon packages, as you look at the journal piece today.
Exactly. Now, we don't, again, they're saying it will not be, you're very small percentage. But the fact is that FedEx has been taking advantage of UPS, and I want people to understand that UPS is pulling back from some of the large. It's bad for UPS, good for FedEx. Let's leave it like that.
Of course, the largest deliverer of Amazon goods is Amazon.
Right. So I don't want to go and say, UPS had gotten up to, about 11%. But I do think that FedEx is a great beneficiary of anything that makes it so there's more commerce, obviously.
It is. Stopping and appreciating what Amazon has built.
Keeps dropping, baby.
I know some people are dumping it. I know some people were surprised given the fact that there's no de minimis real change. But I will say that stock's been killed.
Well, Amazon had their upfront.
Yeah. No, still choppy.
The way he greeted you, I think it was one of the greatest things in his life.
It's gonna go down more.
Let's get the opening bell of the CNBC Real-Time Exchange of the big board. It's manufacturing and services company Fabrinet celebrating 50th anniversary.
There we go, baby.
And the Nasdaq America on Tech celebrating the organization's.
No, I'm not sure. I had a short at 116. It didn't hit yet.
Right. It's funny. I saw an article in the papers this week about the small Chinese IPOs.
I need Tesla to dump for my puts.
Yes.
That CPI was crap.
They are so small.
Yes.
But David, it is kind of ironic, isn't it, that while there's been such a trade war going on, they've been the principal creator of capital here.
Yeah, they come to our markets without a doubt for.
What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, I
I know what you think about it. I think it's very helpful for many of our underwriters, certainly.
There you go.
There have always been questions in terms of the transparency to a certain extent of accounting and things of that nature. It's always something that those who invest in them should keep in mind.
Right.
But yeah,
Hindenburg really, Hindenburg got one of the greatest.
They did. They did.
I miss Hindenburg because they
He's no
just
longer,
followed-
right? He's done.
No, he's done, and
Yeah.
he did his job.
Yankee was too strong.
They played it to the hill, and they really had an amazing record. But at the same time, this is a very stressful thing.
80 was good to buy. Dang, I was going.
Order filled.
Oh, my short hit.
We get
Order submitted.
Get priced tonight. Golden Lead deal. Robinhood competitor. People may be familiar with the name. I think there was an attempt at some point to
Order
come public
filled.
with SPAC
Order
back in
submitted.
the old SPAC days. But worth mentioning because
Order
we have talked
canceled.
about the dearth of IPOs.
Order
and we all
canceled.
know
My short is hitting every time and taking profit, so it's good.
Order submitted.
In and out, over and over.
By the way, one of the things that there's so many articles about how there's been a real pullback in
That was a good short there.
by the administration to go for renewables. President likes solar.
Really?
Yeah, First Solar is really doing well.
First Solar is doing well.
Order submitted. Order filled.
filled.
Yes.
So
It's one of the reasons why Nextract is doing so well. I
Order
don't make money in
submitted.
that thing, but look at that First Solar. Yeah.
although the tax bill that is being put together is going to eliminate.
Oh no, I think it might go back up
It's going to
on the
eliminate
3
a lot of
minutes.
the incentives for solar and for EV.
It's enough that
Not right away in certain
Order
areas,
filled.
but over a fairly short amount of time. And then
Yep.
even when
Order
it comes
submitted.
to things like
Nice.
carbon capture and some of those things that we've talked about. I mean, my gosh, how much I talked to ExxonMobil about that. Also, certain incentives are going to be taken away, and the
I
tax
think-
credits that come along with them, which are a very active market.
how do you like the way they unraveled that stuff? Just a blink.
It's hard, you make a plan based on a certain expectation in terms of those being available to you, and that's how you incorporate what your ultimate return is going to be, and then it's gone.
There were people who fought for that. I mean, I'm sensitive to it because probably half our audience believed that this was a major expanse of trying to get climate change and combination of lower gasoline and no brake. I don't know if I were GM. I mean, as it is, Ford has pulled back. It's questionable how much money was spent, and it's just not going to be. It's not working. Like we became a.
Order submitted.
We're a gasoline-based country, man. Whoa.
You're talking about the EV tax credit.
Come on,
Jeff.
go down. There we go.
That's why, I remember Darren Wood saying on the Paris Accord, on the Climate Accord, just make up your mind and stick
Order
with it. So
submitted.
we can make decisions that are 10 or 15 years out.
It's incredible because if you go in and out, David, and you're trying.
I keep
to make
shorting
sure
to keep
that we
longing.
are headed toward perfect direction, like we're Norway,
Right.
Finland,
Right.
Well, we're not really those countries.
Order filled.
Well, look, we're not putting up a coal plant every other week.
No, we're not.
Nice.
Order
We
submitted.
also don't have Norway's, what is it, $1.7 trillion?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Order filled.
filled.
What, they got 5.5 million, 6 million people in the country? $1.7 trillion sovereign fund, obviously the oil revenues in the North Sea.
Like,
It's been,
yeah, I couldn't hear you. That fan is loud. You said my funded futures?
Yeah.
That's why I pointed it out. But they can't.
It's going down? Maybe. I think they're low on money.
It is just unbelievable. Those stocks. You were just been the ones that
Just
really
that stuff.
And they only pay 1 million on the FX side, and already 2 weeks in, they're paying over $1 million on the future side. So they're hurting because most of the affiliates are getting a shit ton of money.
I think Oxy is really not a great company at all.
And then you don't know if it's actually payout, or they're paying to affiliates or staff or stuff on the payout junction.
The answer is that the president experienced. He did this in 2016. Everyone thought,
Yeah, that's a nice point.
And
Order
the company's got
objected.
clubbed. And this time's much worse. And I know it's integral to his case of why we need a rate cut. I think when he comes back, we'll hear a little chat about that again.
Right. Well, we'll see. I mean,
My tournament
oil
thing is
gotta
gonna
come back
bust
to 64,
soon.
63.
Oh, here goes Palantir starting to go up.
Outscarp over there. Oh, Krug's above
A
60.
lot
Outscarp over there,
better.
along with, yeah, any number of people.
A lot. I can
so
hear
the
you
Netherlands
now.
business community are over there. Yeah. actually some. I mean,
could
he's
just
been on the list, which is kind of unexpected. Reed Hoffman, so he's been a vocal critic.
They've got old, they've got new, and they've
No, they're not gonna shut down when you like now. You still got time. So don't YOLO. Try to get the payout.
Steven Schwartzman, Larry Fink, and Jenny Johnson, Arvin
Get the
Krishna,
payout and just leave.
Jane Frazier, Michael Bass, Northern Trust, Kelly Ortberg from Boa, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to work with poor Eddie Jackson.
We'll wait on Musk as well. I think it's
Because Trump's not coming on yet.
How about like the CEOs of Baker Hughes, Halliburton, Schlumberger? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I think that's,
that is interesting.
Your friend Marcello Clores there, the guy from
Marcelo
used to be-
Yes, of course. Yeah, he used to run. He used to run
Yeah.
Sprint. Guys, but hey, that actually gets me to something I wanted to hit. Which is another name that we used to talk about a lot. We don't because it's a tiny company now. But it's no, this is not.
Miami. Is this a paper?
Well,
going on
all right. We'll do the favor report, then we'll get to
Later, buddy.
We'll get to EchoStar.
Order submitted.
We're going to stay in oil and gas, Jim, and I want
Bye.
to talk about.
Yesterday, NRG, you were so right about that. Boy, you see that stock?
Well,
That was good.
That was an amazing move on NRG's part.
You know, here up and kill a deal. You made that deal.
Here I'm talking about Phillips 66, and I'm talking about the fight with Elliott.
So good.
Let me just talk about this a bit because we may see something historic for Elliott in the U.S.-based proxy. Will you let me finish? Will you let me finish?
So 15 minutes near the top now. Really up there.
We may see something historic in the sense of in the U.S. in a proxy fight that Elliott actually goes to a vote. They never have. Whether it's Arconic, whether it's Hess, which obviously we followed very closely, and where they successfully put directors on the board, they've never actually gone to a vote. We got a week, got 7 days. Maybe they settle, and perhaps there'll be some more pressure on Phillips because ISS, the still influential proxy advisory firm, came out last night with their report. Remember, both sides get in front of them. They argue their sides. And they came out in favor of all four of Elliott's directors.
They're hitters. You see their hitters?
Yeah.
But you should read some of their backgrounds.
I have.
Strong.
I have read their backgrounds. And I've also obviously read the ISS report.
Order submitted.
And listen, there are a lot of arguments here on both sides. Of course, I'm not going to encompass all of them now. We're going to keep this relatively tight.
Order
But
canceled.
part of the key part of Elliott is, hey, listen, you've underperformed your core
trying to
period.
get some
the 5-year
shorts in.
period. You lag in refining profitability. And even when refining margins go down, you still lag as
Order
well.
filled.
And then they
Order
also come back
canceled.
to, we think you guys should be spinning off your midstream assets.
Order
He did it
submitted.
last year. He's not done that badly.
No, but 50% equity investment in Chevron Phillips Chemical Company, the midstream business, the chemical business, they all believe, at least, again, in fact,
Order
Elliott,
submitted.
some of the parts valuation significantly above where it trades right now, as evidenced, they say, by the current enterprise value over EBITDA multiple, and they argue it trades as a refiner without getting credit for those midstream operations. So those are some of the key arguments they're making. They also talk about lack of oversight, new directors, staggered board, a number of other things. Yeah, they do, but then they went against them. And by the way, as you'd expect, Phillips
Stockholm syndrome?
made a lot of that. The fact that Elliott at least agreed to
Order filled.
last time they had a fight is now against them.
Order
Here's the
submitted.
conclusion from ISS. And Jim, again, 30% of this
Order
is held by
canceled.
They don't listen to ISS, but you do have a large institutional contingent as well as the index funds, many of which now
Order
make their own
submitted.
decisions, but it is still important. It's still a milestone. Will it bring the two sides to some sort of an agreement that once again puts off an actual vote so that Elliott will never have had a vote? The largest, by the way, activist in the U.S. Kind of interesting, never gone to a vote.
And it is amazing. Greg Hayes is on that board.
Yeah.
Greg Hayes is a total hitter.
Yes.
And I've often felt, before I just say, hey, check box, go for Elliott, they're not a terrible board, but the people that Elliott has, they get.
Wow, they've got some strong, as you say, you believe some strong directors, as does again.
Order
ISS
filled.
believes some strong directors. It's been an interesting fight. My inbox, as I'm sure yours has been filled with missives from
Order
both sides
submitted.
now for quite some time. So we'll be covering it closely to see whether they settle or, in fact, whether they do go to a vote.
And you have a second favorite?
Well, that wasn't a favor report. I was keeping an eye on shares of EchoStar because there was a story yesterday in the journal saying, remember, this is the old dish. They have that 5% 5G spectrum, and they've got to put it to use. Otherwise,
Order
the FCC might be in a position to claw some of it back.
No, my FE's gone.
A week ago at Milken, I sat
Negative
down
2.
with Brendan Carr.
I shorted last night on the tournament. Yeah, it was just a gamble. It didn't work.
And it has now come to the fore. Take a listen to the interchange, because I think it was a good tell in terms of the FCC's perhaps frustration with EchoStar in terms of using that spectrum.
Put to use to benefit consumers.
I think there was a hope at the time it was awarded that it would be in full use now, and it's not.
It is not.
Is that disappointing to you?
Yes.
What do you have in terms of power to be able to do to
Order
make sure that
canceled.
spectrum
Order
is
filled.
better used?
Well, look, there's a lot of tools in the toolkit to do that. But again, I think the bottom line is, given the spectrum,
I got half back on my Apex that
one way or
came
the
back
other,
yesterday.
that's
Order
what
submitted.
put to use. We've got to get more data.
A letter from May 9th from
2119. I
Brendan
swear
Carr,
it should
specifically
go back
directed
down.
agency staff to begin a review of EchoStar's compliance with its federal obligations to provide 5G service throughout the U.S. per terms of its federal spectrum licenses. Stock was down yesterday when the Journal reported on this letter, and now we have confirmation both of the letter itself and from EchoStar and Charlie Ergen saying they have been working with and collaboratively with FCC leaders since they launched, of course, a long time ago, and they continue to believe that they will do so. So, wanted to just point that out. Last time we were talking about this one, they were trying to merge with DirecTV, which failed. Bondholders said no, but we're coming back to it.
Anything new that you have on cable and who's doing better? Just a sense of things?
No.
No. I mean, no.
Is anybody doing better?
Yeah, I thought you said Charter was doing
Charter? Spectrum?
Well, I'm just quoting you.
Nice drop. Come on. Let me get out.
Well, the response to
Nice.
earnings from
Nice.
Charter was certainly better
Made
than
200 from the short on my Apex.
and then wireless, which obviously a very important component of both these companies' licenses, and Charter certainly has garnered a great deal of. I mean, it is becoming an important component of their.
I mean, all the squeezes are done,
putting
so
all these
I don't
companies
know.
in competition with each
They
other,
want
which then
to
does
go back
get to
down,
the
so it's too long.
consolidation
That
question,
80
which
was a
it may
good
have
long
done
if we
in
did.
front of Brendan Carr one day, which is, will you allow a Verizon and a wireless player and a cable company to get together? Could you imagine such a scenario? Hard to say, Jim.
No, but I'm following closely, if only just because I kept thinking that this administration was going to allow a lot of deals that previous guys.
We thought when things began that we would be incredibly busy talking about today. It hasn't been the case, in part because of market volatility, in part because perhaps with more stringent regulatory environment than might have been anticipated, but frankly, to be fair, far less than the last administration. And because of the uncertainty that we talk about every day, of course, coming back to which is tariffs and what the economic picture is going to look like. So deferred. A dream deferred, but not necessarily.
Well, maybe tomorrow, maybe your IPO you talked about.
You got to talk. It's a podcast.
Well, I'm just saying that he went out with the IPO, and I'm just saying I watch this Goldman Sachs go up every day. Only it sells only 30.
You know what time Trump's supposed to be on, though?
There could be bank deals where
Just gotta make sure I exit out.
10% threshold. I thought that was a gimme, but let me tell you what I think. This is a Chapel Trust name, so I'm talking my own.
Connection lost.
Capital One. This deal, when it closes, and that
Nothing.
allows Coinbase to get in the S&P. That's why they're in there. Watch every single lapdog analyst come out and raise their numbers because Capital One's going to have the Discover. They're going to have Discover Financial's got a network that competes with Mastercard and Visa. I'm telling you, you're going to have people just come out of the woodwork and say they love Capital One.
Look at Coinbase just because it got added. Yeah. No, I understand. The point you're making is about Capital One and what's going to be.
Yeah.
Although that stock has also had a nice move.
Well, Richard Fairbank, the CEO of Capital One. I don't know if you've spoken. It's eye-opening.
Is it? Why is that?
Because he kind of starts with that concept of perhaps you're not as familiar with it. Which means, listen, you knucklehead, let me explain to you how we work. But then he's gentle. But yeah, you get, I mean, sometimes.
Is he Slootman-esque?
No one's slooping.
No.
No one's slooping.
We heard from Frank and
Come on, baby. Drop it.
Frank, but Frank's very Belichick-like, maybe a little Parcells-like. kind of explain to me
Belichick now, all you can.
That's it.
What's the first thing that comes to mind now?
We're not talking about
When
this.
you think about Belichick, it's not all the Super Bowls.
Well, as we go to break, Dow's down 154, clearly reflecting UNH. Watch bonds today. We did get CPI, of course, lowest core since 2021 on an annual basis. Actually, 3-month annual rate 2.1 on core is pretty interesting.
David's talking MAGA.
And we're just about 20 points shy of break even for the S&P year to date. Stay with us.
It's brought to you by PIMCO, a global leader in active fixed income.
Check that.
Asking the right question can greatly impact your future. Are you qualified to do this?
What?
Especially when it comes to your finances.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes.
No, I want to go down more. So
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's why it's got to be a CFP.
at the top.
Professional, and let's make a plan down.
3, yeah, they're both at the top. I still have a few shorts. I got 2 more accounts I'm still shorting.
And I know I can access it anytime I need it. It's very simple. Better rates mean faster growth, and that's exactly what I need.
Insurify. At Insurify, we make it easy to cut your car insurance bill in half. In a few clicks, cut out the middleman so you can cut your bill in half. Go to Insurify.com and save up to 50% on your car insurance.
Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1932 $10 gold Indian coins have been found. These gorgeous 1932 gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 400 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling the secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1932 dated gold coin featuring Lady Liberty with an Indian war headdress and a majestic eagle. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1932 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 92 years of history you can hold in your hand. Call 1-888-870-6353. Call now when you receive a free bonus over a $55 value free with every order. Call 1-888-870-6353 to secure your 1932 $10 gold Indian coins before they sell out. Don't wait. You must act fast. Call now.
Did you know that criminals can steal your home without you even knowing?
Nobody thinks that I can take their house. Nobody thinks that.
Criminals forge your signature on one document, transfer your title out of your name, take out loans using your equity.
3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices, and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Leaving you with a financial and legal nightmare. Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
June 5th, CNBC's Fast Money Live returns. Join Melissa Lee and the team of traders live and on air at the NASDAQ market site in New York City. Get your tickets now at cnbcevents.com/fastmoney.
Take a look at some Tesla charts going back to April 2, up about 13% since then, although we've talked a bit today about the potential lack of an EV tax credit. We continue to watch sales figures come in from China and Europe.
Another great piece by Jonas today about the things
The humanoids that ran the half marathon in Beijing.
And what can I say? I think Jonas has got the beat in this one.
The whole way. Coming up in the next hour, we'll hear from Musk live from that Saudi-U.S. investment forum in Riyadh. Meantime, the president is set to address that in just a few moments. We'll get you live coverage of that and his remarks in a moment.
Something happened? Wow.
Fixing things.
That was a pump.
Meet growing needs, working to run the world on smarter energy every day, taking power where the grid's never been.
Let's see, Trump is on.
Doing it again.
No, I'm not on yet.
Optimism never stops.
The hell?
Then change can begin.
Now? Yeah.
Supernova, the energy of change.
Gonna wait.
Golf is not a religion, but it does have cathedrals. These
These courses do more than just test your character. They reveal it. Peter Malone, the official outfitter of the United States Open.
Small business owners, you gotta stop doing what you're doing. Why? Because bookkeeping sucks. You shouldn't be doing it yourself. So go to zendu.com. And what you're gonna get there is a trusted financial partner. So you can do what you do best. Run your business. Zendu.com.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things just right. That's why I love Red Pin's home
Order
recommendations.
submitted.
They know what I want even before I do. A home that's just right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Introducing CNBC Plus, the new streaming platform from the #1 source in business news. Watch live or on demand. Access any market.
Order
anytime.
filled.
Order filled.
Start streaming. Go to
Order submitted.
CNBC.com/plus. Now.
Order
Order
canceled.
filled.
Order canceled.
There we go.
What's shaking?
Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission.
Order filled.
Order filled.
Order submitted.
I'll have someone really wants a soda. But she just feels like a whole lot of sugar to have in broad daylight.
Hello?
She's thinking.
Are you okay?
Order submitted.
What if there were a better soda?
Okay, I'm gonna freak out. It's a drive-through, not a confession booth. Show up a poppy, please.
Okay, wait. 5 grams of sugar? That's actually an amazing call.
It does, right?
Maybe it's good.
In Europe, there's $12 trillion of money sitting in bank accounts in Europe. In the United States,
Order
there's
submitted.
$11 trillion sitting in money market funds.
Order canceled.
Order
When
filled.
there is that uncertainty, you're going to keep more and more money in cash, and that's what we've witnessed. In addition, because of the uncertainty and maybe an over-optimism about the United States, we've seen
Order
modest
submitted.
reallocation out of the United States into other economies, especially Europe. But we still see global investors overweighting the U.S. And overall, most investors are still underweighted Europe, but less underweighted today. That's Larry Fink of
Order
BlackRock
submitted.
in Saudi Arabia earlier this morning talking to Jane Fraser City. Jim, you're going to see more and more money in cash because of all the uncertainty.
Well, I mean, look, I
Yeah.
think Larry's absolutely right. Remember, they're paying a lot of money in cash. So you sit there and you say, you know what? I'm doing all right. Now, if you go and you look at, say,
Order filled.
BGK.
Order filled.
I mean, look, I don't want anyone to look. I love the German market right
Order
now. I love
submitted.
the Spanish market. David knows. He always comments how much I think Anna Boutine, how terrific she is. But the BGK is the way to do
Order
it. Now,
Order filled.
Stepping Leaf, I used to talk about. That's the ETF for Europe. But Italian banks.
Order
Order filled.
German. You've got things related to Deutsche
Order
Bank,
filled.
just related to Ukraine.
Nice.
But it's remarkable. And
Order
I think it's
canceled.
I really do.
Yeah, German DAX again, knocking on
Hello?
all-time highs.
Oh my!
Pretty
You
amazing.
know, it's because they decided to start spending. Remember, when they waived the spending, it
Order
wasn't safe
submitted.
on defense in particular.
A little bit and
Well,
ran on
meantime,
some.
about tonight.
Okay, tonight we'll be at Disney. The upfront's kind of different. Dan Walden.
Order
does
filled.
such a terrific job there over there at TV. And then
Order
I have one.
Dang.
They got some new models. I don't know about you guys, but I have an on closet for my wife, and then I have her other clothes. And they've got new models, and it's just this guy Martin Hoffman. He is just so cool. He did that album. He did that Super Bowl. With the feathers behind him.
Mm-hmm.
How many ons do you have?
I got a few pairs, right? I got one good pair that doesn't squeak though.
We got. I think on.
I have a squeak problem.
I remember when you used to wear Nikes. What did they think? They're sitting there in Oregon, and they're thinking, "Wait, maybe we gotta poach someone from on."
Maybe.
Meantime, I know you're watching
Order submitted.
HD today, yes? Which first stop trading? Home Depot?
Oh my, okay, I want people to understand something, and this is really important. Listen up and listen good. This is the weekend for Home Depot. You get good weather this weekend and good weather next weekend, you see 400. This is Christmas time.
Order filled. Order filled.
You and I will be out there, we'll be digging, we'll be planting, we're going to Home Depot, and look out. I mean, this is the 2 weeks that are not rate related. They are just about.
You remember, Carl, when I think he tweeted a picture of himself in his full suit.
204 is next level.
I make no secret of that. I have Brioni gardening clothes. They are suits that are almost a year old.
Perfect, right? So they can get all dirty. Yeah.
I mean, almost a year old. What are you going to do? Throw them away?
Don't throw them away.
At 7 in the morning.
You go to Depot and your Brioni, Xenia doesn't cut it.
The luxury market's apparently aligning well. Jim, we'll see you soon. That's tonight, Mad Money, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're awaiting the president's remarks at the Saudi-U.S. Investment Forum in Riyadh. Meantime, very steady market as we're again knocking on the door, just stone's throw away from breaking even for the year.
You trading?
At US Bank, we know how good it feels to reach your milestones, but we also know what really goes into getting you there. That's why we introduced Cobras, which connects you to a real banker in real time to help you do anything from adding a new debit card.
I'm scared along now. It's too late.
Even creating spending limits. With Cobras, we're always there for you on your road to here, because there's nothing as powerful as the power of us.
At this point in my life, I know I'm investing for the long haul. Being able to.
I'm still holding a few shorts. That's pretty red.
It's steady, reliable, and
But my sizing is
it's like
okay,
having
so I can still draw.
just on autopilot.
Yeah, I went against the bot. I always lose when you go against the bot. Maybe it's gonna drop when Trump's on.
Victims of mesothelioma and their families may be entitled to receive a cash award from the estimated $30 billion in asbestos trust funds now available. Over $50 billion has been awarded already. If you have been diagnosed with mesothelioma
You made money or no?
cancer caused by asbestos, call the number on your screen now. We have served victims of mesothelioma and their families nationwide for over 30 years. We have successfully recovered hundreds of millions of dollars for thousands of our clients.
Yeah, you're killing
Even
it.
if a
Good
family
shit.
member has passed due to mesothelioma, you may still be entitled to a cash award. So call now for your free evaluation. We want to help victims of mesothelioma and lung cancer, and your families get the financial compensation you deserve from the estimated $30 billion in trust funds now available. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma,
Call 1-800-293-7824 now or visit us at mesofund.com.
Boxes, sure, they bring you stuff, but they can't make a pool day more fun. Maria, though, who sent her loungers on offer, just threw in a cooler for free. Discover life outside the box.
I get my ideas from Mad Money everywhere. I look at everything as a stock. Everything. I study it all the time. What the company does, what the sector does, what the CEO does. You come to my show and you learn how to do stocks. When I have a CEO
Order
on the
submitted.
show, I want them to think I know their company as well or better than they do. If I can teach more people in the next 20 years than I have already, let's go to Ryan in Ohio. Ryan, and I have won.
Mad Money, weeknight 6 Eastern, CNBC.
I love the viewer. Means everything.
Order submitted.
I have a short of 32. Do it. It's not. Well, a little. I see a little bit. It's gonna. 3 minutes. No. Yeah. I see it.
We do not get back any of yesterday's bounce. 5870 is about 11 points shy of a year-to-date break-even for the S&P.
Order
Meanwhile,
filled.
the NDX
My short hit. My short hit.
so far.
right, we're going to begin with that Saudi-U.S. Investment Forum. It's an A-list cross-section of corporate America, and they have descended upon Riyadh. It includes the likes of Jensen Huang, of NVIDIA, Artificial, IBM, Larry Fink of BlackRock, AMD's Lisa Su. As you can see, all greeting President Trump and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman this morning. Let's get to Eamon Javers. He is in Washington. He also has some breaking headlines.
Order
As we,
canceled.
of course, are awaiting the president's remarks at this forum. Eamon.
Yeah, David, the president
Order
running a little
submitted.
bit behind in Saudi Arabia, so we don't know exactly when that will start. Meantime, the White House has just put out a list of big business deals it's inking as part of this overall trip. The White House
Not yet.
totals up to about
Supposed to
$600 billion in investment from major corporations. The White House saying that Saudi Arabian company Datavolt is
I'm
moving
still
forward with
there.
plans to invest $20 billion in AI data centers. Google, Datavolt, Oracle, Salesforce, AMD, and Uber, they say, are committing to invest $80 billion in what they call cutting-edge transformative technologies in both countries. Iconic American companies, they say, including Hill International, Jacobs, Parsons, and AECOM, are building key infrastructure projects like King Salman International Airport, King Salman Park, and more, totaling $2 billion in contracts there. So some of this will have been in the works already, but all of it being announced simultaneously here for this trip. And the big themes here, David, are very much big business deal making, and also even bigger pomp and circumstance with the president. It all began with an F-15 Saudi fighter jet escort for Air Force One as it landed. Then we saw Arabian forces escorting the Beast as the president was limoed around in Riyadh. So they are rolling out the purple carpet in the case of the Saudi government here. And then all of those business leaders, as you can see here, greeting Mohammed bin Salman and the President of the United States. This is a display of wealth and power unequaled really anywhere in the world. And it's all about cutting these deals that the President says will benefit U.S. workers and the U.S. economy more broadly, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it really is significant, I think, just to see that, as we said, the cross-section of U.S. businesses. And by the way, competitors. I mean, Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, Ruth Porat, president of Alphabet there, for example. You've got Sam Altman and Elon Musk. I don't know if they can even be in the same room at this point, but they are at the forum itself. Do we, any details? It was $600 billion, obviously, but anything beyond in terms of where that money is going to end up and what sort of the specific uses?
Yeah, I think
my short's not looking good. That one in Q2.
We didn't get any advance warning of any of this, so we're literally going through it for the first time right now. But for example, on the $80 billion, the White House is saying that investment is going to go into both countries, right? So it's not $600 billion.
Yeah, I just gotta wait.
Investment in the United States. It's $600 billion overall of economic activity. There you see the president signing recently some memorandums of understanding with the Saudi government. We haven't been given details as to what those memorandums of understanding actually are understanding, right? So a lot of this has not been read out to the press in advance, and we still are trying to get details on what exactly these agreements are, who they're with, and what they say. For these investment details, we're going to have to talk to the companies to get more insight into what's going on here. And of course, all this is happening against, and we have to mention, the backdrop of the president's own personal businesses, his crypto businesses, his family businesses, all continuing to engage and do business in the region. So money is flowing directly into the president's personal pocket here as well, with some of the deals he and his sons have been able to ink in the region. That's something we just haven't seen before, as a U.S. president out doing deals on this scale, diplomacy on this scale, and then business for himself on this scale in the same region. This is an unprecedented trip in so many ways, guys.
The Trump meme coin is page one of the Times. And I think all three of the countries that he's visiting, Eamon, the Trump organization has announced some, or working on some real estate deals. That's definitely an overlay on all this. Other thing, or David Jeffson?
Well, I am curious as well, Eamon. Sorry, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, almost $1 trillion sovereign fund, essentially. I mean, do we know, is most of the money coming from there? Is it, I know that we don't have specifics. I guess I'm just asking questions we can't necessarily answer at this point, because it's not as though PIF has not been an enormous investor in various U.S. institutions
Oh,
Whether
what was
it's
that?
the likes of Lucid, for example, as well, a company that makes
Ah.
EVs in this country, or of course a huge investor in SoftBank, which then in turn takes that
I
money and
blew
invests
that
in
my
some of the US
funding.
companies as well.
Yeah, a lot of these deals that the White House is
Yeah, I
announcing
had
are
like 200
specific
DD and it
companies
went
in
up
the region
to
and
900 and now it's
specific businesses in
gone.
the United States. So, for example, they're talking about
That's not the
major exports,
payout, so
including
it's okay.
GE Vernova's gas turbines and energy solutions, Boeing 737
What's
passenger
today?
aircraft for a
Wasn't
company
after
called
hours.
Lease. That's at $4.8 billion.
Yeah, just
In the
now.
healthcare sector,
I had it
there's a
short
company,
trying
it's
to
not a
get
company
more
I'm
money on
familiar
it.
with,
I should just stop when I'm up
Power
1,000.
Solutions LLC, investing $5.8
Order
billion,
submitted.
including into a plant in Michigan to launch a high-capacity fluid facility. So a lot of these deals are with individual entities in the region investing in ways that'll benefit American workers and American corporations. But whether all of that flows from the PIF, David, to your question, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to look at the intricate corporate structures of a lot of these Middle Eastern entities and figure out where this money is actually coming from and where it's actually going. All of it just released within the past couple of months.
Finally, Eamon, from the Saudi point of view, we had a discussion this morning about how they have been trying to diversify certainly their economy away from oil, and that's been working, although with oil under some pressure, it gets a little more difficult with feet on the ground. I'm wondering what kind of pressure that puts the kingdom under.
Well, you can imagine what a big win this is for the kingdom to have all these business executives, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, people who epitomize the absolute cutting edge of technology on the ground in the region, doing deals, talking to leaders, throwing some money around, presumably.
Order
as well.
submitted.
At the same time, if you're an economy that needs to diversify, the first step is getting those folks on the ground to talk to you, and then the second step is to see what kind of investment you can do. And it seems like some of it is starting in the data center space, where you're starting to see some Saudi investment in that area. And then, of course, the big question for the U.S. government is how much to encourage that data center space, even as access to advanced AI chips in Saudi Arabia threatens to allow access to the Chinese entities, Chinese government that can rent space at those data centers, get access to those very sophisticated AI chips. So for the U.S. government, the big question is how much to incentivize data center and AI data center growth in this region, even as they're concerned about it bleeding over into China, as the Chinese get access to some of that very, very high-tech stuff that the U.S. government doesn't want to spread around the world.
Yeah, that's a topic of conversation between Alex Karp and our own Sarah Eisen earlier this morning. Eamon, thanks.
Should have followed the bot.
Eamon Jabbers, as we do await the president, let's get back to the market this morning. Building some strength. Nasdaq's up 1%, led by AppLovin. Palantir gets a price target increase over B of A. CPI did hit 2.3 in April. That's less than expected year on year. Our next guest says he now expects the Fed to remain on its path to lower rates 2 or 3 times later this year. Former Federal Reserve Governor Randy Krasner joins us this morning. Randy, always good to check in with you. Thanks for the time today.
Sure.
What gives you, does today's print give you the confidence on that number of cuts?
Well, it's very much consistent with the Fed's forecast. They said that inflation is going to come down slowly, I would argue painfully slowly, but this is consistent with that gradual reduction. We didn't see any spike up really because of tariffs, a little bit on some of the furniture side, but I think there's been a lot of stocking up in advance, and I think we're going to see another round of that now that the cuts of or the tariff cuts have come again for at least for 90 days. People are going to be stocking up as much as they can because they don't know what's going to happen after 90 days.
Right. So when people think back to Powell's remarks in his presser,
Order
and slower growth and higher unemployment, is it time to put that inflationary thesis into a drawer?
I think it's a little bit too late to say the all clear, but I think that most of the inflation effect is going to be much more of a one-off rather than an ongoing kind of thing. So Chris Waller has talked a lot about that. I'm kind of in the Chris Waller camp on that. But I do think the economy is going to be slow. Some of it has to do with some of the uncertainty that's been generated recently. But we've had dramatically higher real, that is inflation-adjusted interest rates for the last year and a half. That's gradually having its impact on slowing the labor market, slowing economic growth. So I do think we're going to be seeing slowing. Does that mean stagflation?
Order submitted.
I don't think so. But we may get a little bump up in the short run if those tariffs come back. Right now, they seem to be
Yeah,
quite.
green is like way at the top now.
Randy, why do you say you expect the decline from here in inflation to be painfully slow? Is it just, enough of those one-off items? Is it just stickiness in certain areas, or is it just a tariff impact?
No, I don't think it's well. The tariff impact will push things up a little bit temporarily if it does come in. Right now, we're still not really seeing big impacts of that yet. That'll slow it, and I think it's kind of the classic last mile problem. It was unfortunately easy to get inflation to go up to 7 or 8, 9%. It was relatively easy to bring it down reasonably quickly from those high levels to 3% or so. But getting it down to that final 2% target, it's just much tougher. It's tougher to get the wage increases down to the area that the Fed feels comfortable with. It's just much tougher for people to accept that lower wage increases. Finally, egg prices are coming down. Finally, gasoline prices are coming down. Maybe we'll start to be more comfortable with that. But it takes a while.
And I guess, I guess you have to have
Order
some
bill.
sort of in the case in terms of what the
Order
economy
submitted.
can handle.
Order canceled.
Folks out there and say, look, the labor market was decelerating coming into this year. It wasn't just the confidence shock from
Order submitted.
the potential for tariffs. So at this point, do you agree that the
Order
risks
canceled.
are balanced? And I guess how would you rate the seriousness of the risks?
Order filled. Order submitted.
Well, certainly I do see serious risks on the downside.
Order filled.
We've got higher real interest
Order
rates.
submitted.
For the first time of the last couple of years, relative to since the global financial crisis, real, that is inflation-adjusted rates were very low, negative even. That makes it easy to find a lot of good investment projects when real rates are negative. Harder when real rates are more positive. As you had said, that was slowing the economy.
Order filled.
The recent uncertainties that have come in, and then we just have to see what's going to happen with the tariffs. It's very hard to
Order
tell
submitted.
if these were just sort of some initial trial balloons and then now pull back, and we'll get to maybe just a consistent 10% tariff across many countries. The U.S. economy can handle that pretty well. If there are these big spikes up in tariffs on that potentially could lead to responses, that's going to be more difficult for the U.S. economy to respond to. But I think the Fed's on a reasonable path towards
Order filled.
gradually slowing economy, towards gradually slowing
Order
inflation.
canceled.
I don't see recession in the cards right now, but there's an awful lot of uncertainty out there.
Yeah, to your point about the trade war shock, there's still those who believe, JPM is a good example, that the trade war shock, in their words, is still material. If you take an average tariff rate of, say, they're using 14.4, that's a tax hike, in their view, worth about 1.6% of GDP, right? That would be the largest or one of the largest since World War II. Does that just easily get absorbed by consumers?
Well, the Trump administration sees this as part of a larger package. Yes, that would be one form of a tax increase.
Order
But
submitted.
I think they see that as helping to finance some of the tax proposals that have just been
Order
coming out of the
submitted.
House, of maintaining low corporate tax rates, maintaining the expensing of investment, which has been very effective in
Order
driving
filled.
investment. And so I think they see that as an offset. And so all as part of a package, they see that as, well, that can keep
Order
the economy
filled.
constantly.
No.
Put that together. If you look at it one piece at a time, then some of the pieces don't look so good.
You mentioned Waller, and I wonder at what point will it be appropriate to start thinking about a parlor game about the next Fed chair?
I don't like to engage in those sorts of parlor games. That only gets people in trouble and gets people mad at anyone who tries to do that. I think Chris is excellent. I think there are a number of excellent candidates who are out there, but I'm going to kind of step aside on that one.
Right. Yeah, there'll be a time where we won't have a choice. We'll have to dive right in. Randy, thanks. Appreciate it on tariffs and certainly on the print today. Good to see you. Randy Crawford. All right, here's our roadmap
You moving
for
the
the
stops
rest
up?
of the hour. We're still awaiting President Trump's speech at the Saudi-U.S. Investment Conference in Riyadh. We'll take you there live for those remarks.
Plus, Elon Musk is also expected to take the stage this hour in Riyadh.
Order
The
submitted.
Saudi Minister of Communications and IT will certainly bring you parts of that
Might hit
conversation.
DLL.
Shelter inflation outpacing the headline report today, up 4% on the last year. We'll talk about some of the rising prices in shelter with the CEO of Zillow, as the S&P 58.87 is now
Oh,
6 points above where it began 2025. Stay with us.
Yeah.
Is this how you're hoping to retire? Well, hope isn't a good retirement strategy. You've worked for a comfortable retirement for years. Now you need to plan for retirement income. Learn ways to avoid common mistakes, like being too conservative or not setting retirement goals. Have someone on your side to keep you on track.
Call for Fisher's Comfortable Retirement Kit with the help you need to make your retirement a success, including the Investor's Guide to a Comfortable Retirement, 13 retirement blunders to avoid, and maximize your Social Security. Call 1-800-759-4477.
Fisher tailors a plan to keep you on track for a retirement you want. And as a fiduciary, we do better when our clients do better.
Order fill.
Call 1-800-759-4477.
Call us today. You don't have it
Order submitted.
unless you plan for it.
If your portfolio is $1 million or more, call 1-800-759-4477.
At Ace, we know whether you grill with charcoal, gas, pellet, or griddle. We've got the perfect grill
And
for
it's
you.
still going up.
Because
Holy
only
cow.
one place has all the best brands in one place, like Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. With free assembly and delivery of your new grill, along with all the sauces, rubs, and grilling extras, you'll have everything you need for your perfect barbecue. That sounds pretty perfect. Around the block, what you need in stock, with service so good it's guaranteed.
Order filled.
It's an easier way to bank and get up to $500
And that
in
was hit
minutes or less
DLL.
when you download Dave. You're telling me when I switch to mobile, you'll give me an iPhone 16 Pro and I can keep my old phone?
That's right. No trading.
There's always a trade.
Nobody got payouts yet. A lot of people are passing, but they keep going with it.
Also, at T-Mobile, you save at least 20% versus the other big
I
guys.
feel like I have to give you something in return
Nope,
for
not yet.
boxer ratings. I'm a mom. A balloon.
I think Doc is close to getting it. I think he's on his third day. Yeah.
Take whatever you want.
I mean, nobody's getting payout. They're making good money. I can't pass it for some reason. I don't know. Just not to use the web browser to trade
Tonight,
it.
just walking the street, three big movers we're watching in 30 seconds. United Health, the biggest decliner in the
No,
S&P, weighing heavily
no.
on the Dow.
You can't connect a Ninja Trader. Just the app or browser.
Also stepping
Yeah,
down
want
for
you do, but I don't
personal
use
reasons
that.
effective immediately. Coinbase is surging on news the stock will join the S&P 500 next Monday, replacing Discover Financial, which, as you might know, getting acquired by Capital One. And Supermicro is surging. Raymond James initiating that stock at Outperform, calling it a, quote, near pure
No,
AI
never.
play. Stocks mostly higher in early trading this morning, led by tech. Adding to yesterday's big gains, the S&P 500 just turning positive for 2025. It is now just 4% from its record highs. Those were set in February. Joining us now, CFRA Research Chief Investment Strategist Sam Stovall. He has a 12-month S&P target of 60.50. Sam, it's good to see you here. I mean, look, one of the bigger, I guess, 7-week declines. We got to a 20% loss in the S&P on an intraday basis. We've gotten back, I don't know, 70% of it. Does it win the benefit of the doubt back for the Bulls at this point?
We're looking at the S&P that's also now above its 200-day moving average. The NASDAQ has closed more than 20% above its April 8th low.
Why? Was it news?
It's in new bull market territory. Needs to hold that for quite some time, however, in order to be confirmed by that.
Order
But
canceled.
our Lowry technical analysis arm is basically pointing to large cap stocks that are seeing expanding breadth and demand. So at least
I didn't even talk about it yet. I'm still on that YouTube
upside
link.
potential.
I guess one of the questions now that we've gotten past just a lot of the tariff noise, and obviously this looks like, you know, a scare that was not realized in terms of the worst fears, but in terms of rebuilding toward those peak valuations that we had back in February.
I'm watching CNBC, but in the YouTube link, it's about Trump and whoever signing something. They haven't done it yet.
But I do wonder what you think has to feed into the fundamentals to get us there or higher.
Well, as you had mentioned early on, my year-end
Really?
is 6050 for the S&P, which is
Oh, this is not live. I'm so stupid.
price appreciation. My 12-month
Yeah.
So the
Waste of
theory is that we're going to need to see an improvement in earnings expectations to go along with the relief that we are feeling in terms of
Yeah,
the
you make good
trade
money, though.
talks and so forth. So right now, S&P earnings are expected to be up a little more than 7% for all of 2025. That's below the 9% forecast as of the beginning of this Q1 reporting period, and well below the near 13% that was anticipated as of December 31st. So I think we've got a lot of repair that we have to do in terms of earnings expectations, because right now we are trading at about a
Kind of short at 215, but I already got out.
Premium
Move it up.
to the S&P over a 20-year time frame on a PE basis, and
Order
double-digit
submitted.
premium even over a 10-year basis.
I've been mentioning, for a few weeks now, Sam, at least the possibility that we could have been seeing one of those, as we've discussed, near bear markets, the 1998 style. These are event driven. The market goes down pretty swiftly, maybe 15 or 20%. And then there's some kind of policy circuit breaker, right? Markets panic until policymakers panic. Did that happen this time? Do you think that's a good template for what we've seen?
I do. I think that from the stock market, the bond market, that did sort of push the administration to agree to some sort of a agreement with the Chinese. Also, I think that they were indicating that the deal with the UK was really meant to serve as leverage for the upcoming China meeting. But I don't think that the administration is going to approve some broad-based change in tariffs. I think they're going to work on a piecemeal basis. I think they're just going to have strategic ceasefires that they can then tweak as time goes on in order for them to remain in the driver's seat. So don't look for broad-based tariff reductions and eliminations of tariffs, but rather look at individual sectors as well as piecemeal agreements so that the administration can still remain in the driver's seat.
Should we be hoping for the conditions under which the Fed would start to cut, aggressively here, or at least a few times this year, or is it okay for them to stay on pause?
Well, I think that they're going to cut interest rates by 25 basis points at the July meeting, and then a second time at the December meeting. Today's cooler than expected CPI data, I think, adds a little bit of confidence to that forecast. We'll have to wait to see what happens with PPI and the more important PCE at the end of the month. But I don't think that we're going to see 4 cuts as the market had been anticipating just a short time ago. So I think we'll be happy with 2.
In terms of
Order
leadership,
submitted.
did we pass the baton at all in this correction? Or is it, look, the Max 7 is flying today. They've had a pretty good rebuild of their leadership profile here. But is there anything that happened in that crucible of that pullback that maybe changed the character of the market?
Not really, because there's the old saying that after a decline of 10% or more, we tend to see a rotation from first to worst, meaning moving away from those groups that held up the best, consumer staples, healthcare, utilities, and into those groups that were beaten up the most. So right now, the 3 best performers during the decline are up less than 6%, while the market itself is up 17%, and the 3 worst performing sectors are up 21%, whereas the 10 worst performing sub-industries up 31%. So essentially, those industries, those companies that were priced to go out of business but did not, are the ones that really tend to bounce after the conclusion of a decline like this.
Yeah, and of course we did see the sort of defensive safe harbor type names pull back yesterday and give back some of that upside. Sam, appreciate the time. Always good to catch up.
Thanks, Mike.
We are still awaiting the president's remarks in Saudi Arabia and also an appearance by Elon Musk. We're going to take you there live when it begins. NVIDIA is definitely ripping higher today. Jensen Huang just speaking in Riyadh, giving a clue about a potential change in policy regarding chip exports to that country. Shares, as you can see, at almost 5% in a relatively flat tape. We'll get details in a moment.
Boxes.
Sure, they bring you stuff, but they can't show you how to use it. Tara,
Order
who's
filled.
for on offer won't mind at all. Discover life outside the box.
Order submitted.
Double check that.
What was that? Asking the right question can greatly impact your future.
Are you qualified to do this? What?
Especially when it comes to your finances.
Yeah, question.
Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's why it's gotta be a CFP. Find your CFP professional at letsmakeaplan.org.
At Zillow, Spencer Raskoff helped change how people buy homes and created billions in value. But his only regret was not letting everyday investors in sooner. Now, Spencer and I are targeting a $1.3 trillion
Order canceled.
Picasa. Backed by leading VCs, we're building the future of second home ownership with over $100 million in adjusted gross profits. Now you can join top investors for just $2.80 per share before our share price changes. Learn more at picasa.com/invest.
Did you know that 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about?
Well, that's dumb. I keep track of my subscriptions in spreadsheets and always get it right.
We'll see about that. All right, so I just downloaded Rocket Money on your phone, and it looks like you're paying for 2 meal delivery kits.
What?
Why?
Let me see. It's probably my ex protocol and cancel.
Wait, with Rocket Money, you can cancel subscriptions you don't want right from the app with just a few taps.
Well, I still lost $400.
But you might not
Order
have, because
submitted.
Rocket Money will also reach out and try to get you a refund for the money you lost.
Actually?
Yeah, download Rocket Money today.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine. She doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy. Even a term policy? Even a term!
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-476-0100 or visit coventrydirect.com.
What if I told you that you have enough credit card points to take your dream
Order
trip, but
submitted.
you didn't even realize it? Join millions of travelers who are getting 6 to 12 times more value from their points with Point Me. Head to Point Me now and start getting more from your points. Search for your next to-work flight today.
Scan the code, shop the tag. Tonight, 9 Eastern, CNBC. Overtime's about understanding what just happened in the markets that day and preparing for tomorrow. I'm looking to talk to sophisticated investors, beginning investors. I'm all these way.
Closing bell overtime, weekdays 4 Eastern, and streaming on CNBC Plus.
It's not inherently good. I just basically disagree with
Order
most people,
submitted.
even on the panel. It is good in the hands of good people. It's not inherently good. It's a dangerous weapon.
Is it in the hands of good people?
Well,
Order submitted.
Palantir's Alex Karp with our Sarah Eisen earlier today in Saudi Arabia talking about good and bad hands that may or may not carry AI forward.
Yeah, I mean, as the technology proliferates, listen, there's no shortage of those people who are at least concerned to some extent. Karp, I guess, amongst Elon Musk, who's over in Riyadh as well, we may be hearing from shortly. Various times said at least a 10 or as high as a 20% chance that AI wipes out humanity. It's one of the reasons
Keep
why
going at
OpenAI
240.
actually to develop the guardrails to put in place, but they're not there in the sense that I think perhaps have been thought of. It's a race now.
Yeah.
And in fact, many would say it's a race that we in the U.S. have to win, in part for the very reason that Karp sort of alluded to.
I wonder if his premise is real. Do most people think it's inherently good? Right? I mean, I think most people think it's kind of a tool. It's powerful, and or he's cognizant of the risks, right?
Yeah.
And he's clearly saying, trust us, we can channel in the right direction.
And of course, in terms of the societal
I'm about
impact,
to lose
even if it
200.
is proved to be good, I think we are far from having any real idea as to what that will truly look like as this technology ramps up rapidly. Speaking of, shares of NVIDIA are jumping this morning. This after its CEO Jensen Huang spoke in Riyadh at the Saudi Investment Forum. He gave some possible clues about a change in export restriction policy that's a key for NVIDIA. And Christina
I have a few shorts too.
details. Christina.
Thank you, Dave. Well, in a surprising shift, also Jensen Huang ditched his iconic leather jacket for
Ken Long is like way up
in
there.
Riyadh today as he unveiled NVIDIA's partnership, like you mentioned, with Saudi Arabia, specifically to build a massive 500 megawatt
data center with Humane, which is the kingdom's new AI venture. The real showstopper, though, from NVIDIA's CEO was that he was directly referring to Blackwell chips on stage. Listen.
But this is two Blackwells, and it's 2,500 watts, 2,500 out of the 500
NVIDIA has an
gigawatts
event.
of computing infrastructure that's going to be built.
See those chips on stage because those are NVIDIA's most advanced chips. Saudi Arabia can now secure access to technology which was previously restricted in the region, and also really marks a significant policy change from Washington. So until now, companies like NVIDIA, AMD needed special U.S. licenses to export advanced semiconductors as well as semiconductor equipment to many countries in the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and that was largely due to concerns over the Middle East close ties with Beijing. Saudi Arabia, keep in mind, the largest trading partner is China. But as Saudi Arabia pushes towards its Vision 2030,
Oh, yeah, payout on your Apex. How many more days do you have on the 50K?
GDP just in the next several years. This partnership with NVIDIA could be transformative. Why? Because NVIDIA will be able to access new markets across the Middle East, signaling a new
Oh,
chapter
you're on day 8?
in both
Nice.
U.S. export policy
You
as
gonna
well
do
as
it
the
or
global
wait?
AI infrastructure race. And a press release was just put out now from NVIDIA, and they say that they're going to be deploying hundreds of thousands of
just take
GPUs
it.
in Saudi Arabia, especially over the next 5 years.
It might
About
not get
18,000,
denied, you never
specifically
know.
the Blackwell, the GB300
Good
in the
work.
next 5 years, guys.
So, Christina, this is enlarging the pool of buyers, of approved buyers for NVIDIA for the highest capability processors, I guess. Are we no longer at a point where everyone's being rationed and there's kind of supply issues here? In other words, NVIDIA can sort of service this open-ended demand?
I think this would fall in line with President Trump's original task of making a country-by-country negotiation. Remember, this week was supposed to be AI diffusion rules on May 15th, which would have put all of these countries in tiers, and they would have been restricted on the number of chips they could receive from, let's say, the likes of NVIDIA. Now,
A
after
few
this
days.
announcement,
How long has
shows
it been?
that President Trump is moving ahead with his individual
Are you in the
country-by-country
Discord?
deals. So going forward,
I'll see
we'll
you.
probably hear an announcement with the UAE being the next one. The New York Times put out a report yesterday about a certain AI company in the Emirates that did receive some NVIDIA chips. So we'll see how this progresses going forward with individual countries as opposed to just a blanket rule from the U.S. government.
And Christina, in terms of the de-escalation in the trade war with China, but still was the ban on the H20s, the $5.5 billion write-down NVIDIA took as a result. Do we have any expectation of what they're going to be able to sell into that market?
The expectation is that there will be another chip. It's not necessarily workaround. It's just every time NVIDIA has to come out with a new chip that falls under the threshold. They've done so over the last several years, and they will continue to do so going forward. So the assumption is maybe it'll be the H20 that'll be just revamped a little bit so it falls underneath the threshold. There are two camps of people that are there, argue that this is NVIDIA going underneath the threshold each time, really seeking out profits and still maintaining that relationship with China. Or there's the other flip side where people say, here,
I have a short of 175.
negotiation tactic or chip,
So I've been holding that short and some other shorts too.
when really they just want to put forth their product. And Jensen Long has said previously that
What
China
are you
is
short
not
at?
far behind at all. So really, is it helping by blocking complete ties with the country when they are already making advancements on their own soil?
Yeah, he obviously has been vocal on that point. Christina, thank you.
Thank you.
We have breaking news on Microsoft. Steve Kovac has details. Thanks, Steve.
I want to hit 240 on
Microsoft
AQ.
tells us it's laying off 3% of its global workforce. This is across all geographies and all levels of employment. This appears to be its largest cuts since early 2023, when it laid off 10,000 employees. Based on the last count of employees that we have, this would be about 6,000 employees with these global cuts. As for why this is happening, Microsoft tells us in a statement, we continue to implement organizational changes necessary to best position the company for success in a dynamic marketplace. And we see shares of Microsoft. We can get a chart up there. They were down a little bit, just fractionally down, it looks like right here. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve, thank you very much, Steve Kovac. Let's get a news update this morning as well with Pippa Stevens. Say, Pippa.
Capital on Thursday.
Yeah, I did one NQ on Lucid. DLL hit so fast.
Conditional ceasefire with Russia. Zelensky says he has not confirmed attendance.
Putin has also not said he will
Should short it
take
now.
talks.
Go, go, go.
The Trump administration ramped up its funding fight.
What size is it? 100K or 50K? Yeah, do 5 MNQ and just short it at 240.
More than 2.2 billion in grants
Yeah.
and 60 million in contracts to Harvard after the university said it would defy the Trump administration's demands to crack down on anti-Semitism on campus. And Kim Kardashian testified today she feared for her life during a jewelry heist in Paris in 2016.
Choppy
She said she
now.
told the armed gang she had children as she begged for her life while tied up with zip ties and duct tape. The accused stole more than $9 million of jewelry. 9 men and 1 woman are being tried in the case. David?
Okay, thank you, Pippa. Coming up as we await more from that high-power gathering in Riyadh, we're going to talk about some names moving on Washington policy, including 2 car companies that are feeling the heat from tariffs and a surprise beneficiary of that Republican tax bill.
Looks like we're going back up. Just hit 240. That's all I need.
With income products from Bright House Financial, you can turn a portion of your portfolio into guaranteed lifetime income for whatever the occasion calls for. Bright House Financial, build for what's ahead.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it or you can't afford it any longer? Meet Tom and Susan. They chose to sell their policy for $200,000 cash. Now they're sailing through retirement. If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell it for cash. Get an instant estimate at ovidlife.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Or call 1-800-502-0100. That's 1-800-502-0100.
Uncertain times. When the future of the economy is cloudy, reach for the silver lining. Today, silver is available for an unprecedented 100-to-1 ratio when compared to gold. Market experts say that anything above 80-to-1 is a clear signal that silver is undervalued. Now's your chance to grab that silver lining and secure your future with this beautiful 1-ounce silver eagle dollar, guaranteed for weight and purity by the United States Mint and offered here by America's rare coin dealer, Westminster Mint. Call now.
This is my coffee shop. We just moved into a bigger space, brought on another employee, and ordered new branded gear for the team. It was so easy. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Since 2007, Origin has been focused on the future. A future that helps you build passive income from real estate. One where we invest by your side without hidden fees or confusing structure. Build the future you deserve with Origin Investments.
Franklin Templeton ETFs. With over 70 ETFs, we have solutions for every market, helping advisors build the portfolios of the future today. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what?
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce me.
Which you do you want to be today? At TJ Maxx, you can afford to turn your closet into a place of endless expression. With the quality you deserve, styles you crave, and prices you love. Max, what makes you, you.
Why did I say I'd man the grills? Man things? Find the knot that makes the hot fire come out. Here's the plan. Onions, burgers, buns. Great. Look at me go. I'm a grilling machine.
How's it go? Literally about 3 more minutes. You've got to turn it on. 5 minutes.
Excited to see people bite into my creations.
Welcome back. We are awaiting the president at that Saudi U.S. investment conference in Riyadh. Of course, we're going to take you there live when it begins. In the meantime, some auto movers this morning after new numbers and some color about the impact of tariffs. Phil LeBeau this morning watching both Honda and Nissan, some challenging times in at least one case, Phil.
Oh, for both of them, Carl, they really are facing some tough situations globally. Let's start first off with Honda. Shares down more than 5%. Both of these companies, by the way, reporting quarterly results early this morning out of Japan. And when you take a look at Honda, operating profit last quarter fell 76%.
Quarterly revenue was up 6.2% compared to the previous year, but the profit is being pressured in China. That it just becomes a brutally competitive market. Doesn't help also that you have tariffs for Mexico and Canadian production for vehicles coming into the United States. They have lowered their full year guidance. Then when you look at Nissan, its operating profit, this is not a typo. This is what they are reporting. A drop of 94%. Quarterly revenue flat versus last year. Not a surprise that Nissan has announced a series of cuts that are going to be taking place over the next year. They hope to get back to profitability by the end of 26, going into fiscal year 27. 20,000 jobs will be cut worldwide.
Agreeing yet?
7 final assembly plants going from 17 down to 10, and they're targeting savings of $3.3 billion. Bottom line is this, guys. They export a sizable percentage of their vehicles out of Japan to here in the United States.
You did good and got
You know
out.
what's going on. They may not be able to export as many, and there may have to shift their
Hold on, I'm
footprint.
talking.
Look, earlier today, Honda said that they are going to be postponing an $11 billion EV plant scheduled for Canada. They haven't scrapped it.
I think only me and you. I think Doc is busted.
It's tariffs, and we don't know exactly
I think
what's going to be
Cajun's
happening
busted
with
too.
the auto market, especially when it comes to electric vehicles.
Yeah, he
No,
blew
we
it
don't,
that
Phil.
second day.
Tough to be a high fixed cost business when these blows strike. Appreciate it. We are keeping an
Yeah,
eye on
Trader
the starting
7's
US
still
investment
in.
forum in Riyadh this hour, where
I
Elon
think
Musk
Dean
is
maybe
expected
is
to
still
take the
in.
stage in just moments. We'll take you there live
It's
when it
only
happens.
2 out.
Plus, today's
Doc and
inflation report
Cajun.
coming in softer than expected, but shelter saw a notable jump. The CEO of YOLO joins us with his read on the housing market.
He told me something. Yeah.
Turn all this fancy prettiness into a classy looking logo. But GoDaddy Aero does with its magical AI powers. It not only creates it, it slaps that sweet thing everywhere.
It's a smart move to get a second opinion. You do it when you're looking for a contractor. You definitely do it with medical advice.
Dang, it almost hit 240.
Why not with your stock market investments? We can help you see opportunities you may be missing. At Henyon & Walsh, it only takes a second to schedule your free
took profit,
second
huh?
opinion. So what's there to lose? Speak to Henyon & Walsh, the second opinion people.
As a contractor, I find sometimes the most impactful thing you can say is what you do on your own home. A couple of years ago, we put a pool in our backyard, my wife and I. There was only one choice for the decking around the new pool. We used TimberTech because of the low maintenance on the product. You can install it and just enjoy it for its lifetime.
Epay, redwood. I mean, after 1 year, you're sanding and refinishing if you want to keep that sharp look. If you don't want to sand and oil every year, you want low maintenance, go with TimberTech.
We just signed the lease on our third shop. My assistant went to customink.com to get new uniforms with all the locations. He found great products, uploaded new art, and had boxes sent to all the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at customink.com.
If you want to manage your own portfolio, learn how I do it.
Jim is such a great teacher. On a larger scale, is teaching us about the whole economy and how it all fits together. It's more than a club, it's an investment.
Go to cnbc.com/joinjim. Breaking earnings news. Under Armour, Cisco, Walmart, Deere, reporting, market reaction, expert analysis, strategies for your
She's tagging everybody.
on CNBC and streaming on CNBC Plus.
The trade of the past decade plus has been buying big tech stocks, and those names have rebounded nicely off the recent lows. But will the mega cap momentum be sustained? We'll talk to one investor who thinks progress on tariffs could give tech that green light. Tune into our Market Navigator segment later on today on Power Lunch for a check on where the opportunities are, 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Trading at Schwab is now powered by Ameritrade, unlocking the power of Thinkorswim, the award-winning trading platforms. Bring your trades into focus on Thinkorswim Desktop with robust charting and analysis tools, including over 400 technical studies. Tailor the platforms to your unique needs with nearly endless customization, and track market trends with up-to-the-minute news and insights. Trade brilliantly with Schwab.
For plant-based, healthy blood pressure support, there's one brand that stands above the rest. It's Superboots by Human, the #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended B brand for heart health support. Find out how to get a free month with your first order at livehuman.com.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Today's inflation report coming in softer than expected, but prices for shelter, well, they saw another jump, climbing 4% over the last year, and that far outpaces the 2.8% rise for the core consumer price index. Joining us now to talk housing is Zillow Group CEO Jeremy Waxman. Jeremy, good to have you. And let's get right to that whole idea of renting versus buying. Because when I look at the numbers right now, in particular, I'm taking a look here. I mean, back in 2020, it clearly made a lot of sense to buy. You were monthly putting away money that you otherwise would have spent on rent. But things have reversed completely, haven't they? That's right. A bit of a challenge for buyers. And with home prices having run up so much since the pandemic, even when the rent prices we're seeing as an increase recently, less than home prices means it's better to rent than to buy in many markets. That said, results in Q1 grew against that challenging market, up 13% in Q1, with our for-sale revenue up 8% and our rentals revenue up 33%. So even though it's a tough time to buy and it's getting more expensive to rent, you're seeing folks able to do it, and you're seeing them increasingly turn to services like ours to get it done. Yeah, well, that obviously is good news for your shareholders potentially, but in terms of somebody looking for shelter right now and or wanting to buy, what do you believe is going to ultimately change this dynamic? Is it just all about rates? Buyers hate uncertainty, right? You saw that when rates were volatile. You're seeing that now with economic uncertainty. But the challenge for buyers and the affordability challenge is really an availability challenge. In the for-sale market, we are probably 4.5 million homes underbuilt. We've been chronically underbuilding since the global financial crisis. And so that has been this accumulated deficit we've been feeling. And now what exacerbates that problem is lack of existing homes coming online as new listings, as sellers feel stuck in their mortgage rates.
Sellers, they may feel stuck, but is the inventory of existing homes on the rise at least? And there are more prevailing price cuts than bidding wars at this point. So while it might be tough to be a buyer, I guess, because of where mortgage rates are, it would seem as if things are loosening up. Is that not true?
Yes, we are seeing new listings increase. New listings up 19% in March from a year ago, but it's really important to put that in context. Think about what that listing level looks like from pre-pandemic levels, from the norms when we were seeing 5.5 to 6 million homes trade every year. We're still 40% off those levels. So the lack of new listings versus historical averages is why you're seeing only 4 million and so homes trade on a sequential basis. We've been at that 4 million level.
Still think we're gonna rug pull in a day. It's just the way it's setting up.
Of location that they have to get it done. Most sellers are waiting as long as they can to trade out of that mortgage.
Jeremy, when you look at metro areas, where are
probably down to 800.
listing inventories building the healthiest? And does that sort of match migration patterns?
Yeah,
Or is it more about
300 points.
demographics, something else?
300 points is nothing for NQ.
Yeah, the housing market is local. We talk a lot about the national averages, and you're seeing home prices soften overall. We're seeing flat-ish home prices in the country now for the year. And what that means is some are still rising and some are falling. Yes.
I'm sorry, let me apologize for the interruption. Our thanks. We want to get to Elon Musk speaking in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, Elon dead too? What the hell?
Please have a seat. No, I'm sure we can do a better welcome than that to Elon Musk in Saudi Arabia. There you go. That's the spirit.
Elon's on TV now.
Elon, my dear friend, we're honored to have President Trump. We're honored under the sponsorship and guidance of His Royal Highness to celebrate a U.S.-Saudi and a Saudi-U.S. relationship that is 92 years old, about how we moved from an oil-based economy to an innovation-based economy powered by wonderful technologies that definitely you're one of the pioneers in this industry.
Damn,
we just showed to His Royal Highness some of your Optimus robots.
Yeah.
And to President Trump.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Tell me about
NQ
that.
just wow.
Yes, so we just
showed several of our Tesla Optimus robots to His Highness and President Trump, and I think they were very impressed. In fact, one of our robots did the Trump dance, which I think was pretty cool.
The YMCA, yeah.
Yeah, the YMCA.
My 240's gonna hit soon.
So yeah, robots can dance, they can walk around, they can interact. I think we're headed to a radically different world. I think a good world, an interesting world. My prediction actually for humanoid robots is that ultimately there will be tens of billions. I think everyone will want to have their personal robot. You can think of it like as though you had your own personal C-3PO or R2-D2, but even better. Then who wouldn't want to have their own personal C-3PO, R2-D2? That would be pretty great. I also think it unlocks an immense amount of economic potential, because when you think about what is the output of an economy, it is productivity per capita times population per capita. Once you have humanoid robots, the actual economic output potential is tremendous. It's really unlimited. Potentially, we could have an economy 10 times the size of the current global economy, where no one wants for anything. Sometimes in AI they talk about universal basic income. I think it's actually going to be universal high income, where anyone can have any goods or services that they want. A science fiction book recommendation that I have, which I think is probably the best envisioning
I'm not
of
lying, that's expensive.
the future, is the culture books by Ian Banks.
Too many issues with them right now with the payouts.
For a dystopian view of the future. Now, there obviously are some risks, which illustrate perhaps if we don't do this right, you could have like a James Cameron sort of movie, Terminator. We don't want that one. But having sort of a Star Trek future would be great. We're out there exploring the stars, discovering the nature of the universe, and
Order filled.
Prosperity.
Order filled. Order filled.
Order filled. Quite imagine yet. So I'm very excited about the future, and very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our absolute
Order
pleasure.
submitted.
And His Royal Highness was talking to you about his vision and his dream to increase productivity for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and power up the region and the whole world with robotics, but also on robo-taxis. So how are we doing on robo-taxis?
Wow.
So really you can think of a car or future cars as being robots on four wheels. And, I think it would be very exciting to have autonomous vehicles here in the kingdom.
Indeed.
If you're amenable.
You heard it here from Elon. He's bringing his robo-taxi to the kingdom.
Yeah.
He has another announcement that he
exactly. So, and I'd also like to thank the kingdom for approving Starlink for maritime and aviation use.
Maritime and aviation. There you go. There you go.
So
you're gonna bring us robots to help us increase the
Order
productivity.
canceled.
Robo-taxis to make sure that our cars and assets turn into a
Order
capillary
submitted.
unit. And Starlink to reform our aviation and maritime.
Yeah.
Talk about XAI.
Absolutely. But I should want to mention also something that may be worth considering is tunnels.
The Boring Company.
I have this company called The Boring Company, which sounds kind of boring, but it literally bores tunnels. And actually, tunnels, in order to solve traffic, you really need to go 3D with roads, and by using tunnels, you can essentially create like a wormhole, like a warp tunnel from one part of the city to another, and alleviate traffic. And we've actually already done this proof of concept in Vegas. So there are working tunnels in Las Vegas that you can use, where that'll just it feels like teleporting from one part of Vegas to another. So always say that, my joke is like tunnels are underappreciated. It's a bit of a, not always a hit, but,
Order filled.
Order filled.
Order filled.
Yeah, and then XAI is
Order
just trying to
submitted.
solve general purpose artificial intelligence. The goal of XAI is to have a maximally truth-seeking AI. And it's important to be maximally truth-seeking AI in order to understand the universe. So
Order filled.
the goal of XAI is understand the universe. To understand, what is out there? Where's the universe going? Where did it come from? What questions? In fact, I think maybe the biggest thing is, what questions do we not know to ask? Like, once you know the question, the answer is usually the easy part. So the goal of XAI is to help understand the universe and
Order canceled.
Order filled.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Order submitted.
And help people answer any questions along the way, of course. But I mean, that's my philosophy. My philosophy is one of curiosity, just trying to understand the nature of reality.
So I know you had a long day, but we also have the Honorable President and His Royal Highness Musidi hitting the stage soon. So this is a historic day, a partnership about how we could join hands together, as we have joined hands in the past 92 years, on building a factor-based economy to help the world and power up 20% of the energy mix, which is very critical today to the AI intelligence age,
Order
the
submitted.
digital age, and how we have reform, and with the intelligent age, and we could not be more appreciative of having a lifetime partner and a friend like you, Elon, to the kingdom.
Thank you.
Joining hands on XAI, Starlink, and robotics and Tesla. Thank you so much on behalf of the whole.
Thank you.
And we look forward to continue the partnership. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. See you.
All right.
Remarkable Q&A with Elon Musk. Not quite as long as we might have thought, but certainly covering a number of areas of interest for the entrepreneur and multi-billionaire. Autonomous cars and EVs, of course, humanoid robots, and Optimus, what that means for Tesla in the future. Tunnels, he touched on,
Let me pick the
Boring
winner.
Company, and of course, XAI. Kind of brings to mind a note that Morgan Stanley wrote today. Adam Jonas trying to put some numbers. Contessa Brewer, by the way, we welcome to Post 9 and Money Movers, looking at long-term what a humanoid robot might bring someone in savings versus a human worker. And in Adam Jonas's view, every 1% substitution by humanoid is worth $300 billion or $100 per Tesla share. This is really what the bull thesis is long-term on Tesla.
But of course, if AI is causing all kinds of consternation and worry among American workers and maybe those around the world about what am I going to do for a job if AI is replacing me, certainly humanoid robots do that as well.
Meantime, we continue to watch the incredible list of guests that have come to this investment conference in Riyadh to talk about not just state-sponsored investments in the United States and vice versa, but the way the private sector will interact with all of that, whether that's Alex Karp-Palantir. We've heard from Larry Fink today, Jane Fraser of Cities there, report of Alphabet. Kind of an interesting cross-section of how strategic economic partnership is going to work.
And you've been talking about it all morning here, Carl, but I think it's really symbolic to look at the president making this his first foreign trip of his new administration, the policy changes that have come about regarding AI and the openness with which there are plans to share this with Saudi Arabia.
I went short at 55 earlier.
That are getting done and the doors that can open for American companies and for Saudi companies as well.
I made, well, how much? 500 on it. In and out. Yeah, I'm doing NQ.
Do we get past what has been security concerns?
I think I'll get hit with the 2-second thing.
In the Middle East, right?
It has definitely pushed aside for the moment discussions of tariffs.
Yeah, I just went in and out real quick, and that's on FE.
Now that we have this 90-day pause with the Chinese in place, stocks have recovered. There are year-to-date losses. S&P's now trading a few points above where it began the year on January 1st at 58.87. Triple Qs are there as well. The NDX and Dow's the only one that's lagging a bit today. That's largely because of UNH, which we'll get into a little bit later this hour. I'm Carl King today with Contessa Brewer, live at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Elon Musk, of course, laying out plans for Starlink, along with plans to bring robo-taxis to the country. Our Eamon Javers has been watching all of that. Hey, Eamon.
Hey, Carl, that's right. Yeah, watching Elon Musk there, I was struck just looking at that event. This was sort of a throwback to an older version of Elon Musk, right? I mean, this was Elon Musk talking about the Star Trek future, about unimaginable prosperity for humanity, about understanding the nature of the universe, all of the sort of the big sci-fi things that Elon was known for before his foray into American politics. I didn't hear a lot. Obviously, this is on the world stage, so not necessarily geared toward an American audience, but I didn't hear a lot of the stuff that Elon has been talking about when he's been at the White House. And I think, this might be viewed as sort of a relaunch of Elon 3.0 or 4.0 or whatever you want to call it here into his post-White House phase of his career. Obviously, he felt very strongly about Doge and about American politics and his role in it. He felt that it was important to get involved with the White House, but at the same time, that foray into American politics did some serious damage to the brand of Tesla, as we've seen polls across the board suggesting that Tesla buyers, who are largely affluent, liberal, environmentally sensitive buyers, were turned off by Elon's foray into American politics. And now we see Elon again on the global stage talking about the big visionary things that he is so famous for, reminding us of all of the accomplishments of his companies and reminding us of the potential future accomplishments there in terms of robotics and robot cars and his space exploration, all the things that Elon Musk sort of views as cornerstones to his appeal in the world. Fascinating to see that relaunch, guys.
Also clear here, Eamon, that there has been a benefit to Elon Musk and his visionary goals when he's talking about using Starlink now for maritime. And the fact that he can demonstrate his humanoid robot, not just for the President of the United States, but for the Saudi royals as well. In terms of the deal making that gets done, how much of this really is about politics in the White House, and how much of this is just about capitalism in the Middle East?
I mean, I think it's capitalism in the Middle East, right? I mean, and the president is there to underscore that point, that these are big economies and they're prepared to do big business. But for Elon Musk, I mean, I think all of these countries in the region have the ability to participate in Starlink, potentially in SpaceX, as he looks for partners there. And obviously Tesla is so important as well. So for Elon, this is an opportunity to get more market access and then to extend the sort of Elon brand around the future in the way that you just saw him doing. This was not Elon talking about, we've got to chop spending, making American political points. This was Elon, on the global stage talking about going to the stars.
Eamon Javers, thank you for following that so closely. Talk to you a bit later.
I sent TPT the email to give you the credit.
Early investor in Google and Facebook, of course, Elevation Partners Managing Director. Roger, good to have you.
Great to see you, Carl. How are you?
So this is classic Musk, is it not?
It is indeed. I mean, the man has a lot of different business activities and he's promoting them all.
What do you think it means? Is this kind of ambitious, sort of over-the-rainbow rhetoric displace the Tesla takedown phenomenon that's done so much damage to sales in Europe especially?
We're going to have to see. To me, Musk's ability to sell his core businesses, which is Starlink, SpaceX, and Tesla, he's always been a pro at that. The real question here is how they promote AI. This is an industry that has spent $300 billion so far, capital investment. They're on track to do another $300 billion this year. And none of the applications to which the technology has been applied to date have provided